All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys Trevor Twidwell
What's good?
and Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 165 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy for you guys to be here with us because, man, do we have a fun-filled show for you guys, especially you Chiefs fans. I hope you guys are tuned in and ready to go because we have a draft spectacular show for you guys. We have had a fun last couple of days watching how the Chiefs have finagled their way into getting themselves some absolute studs in this draft, and it's not over because day 3 is going as we are doing this show right now. I believe the draft just started as we decided to start this episode, so stay tuned. If you guys have any updates for us, let us know what the Chiefs are doing. We know that Brett Veach is trying to be aggressive and getting back into the 4th round, which is going on right now as we speak, so we know that he's going to be trying to use that 5th round pick he got back from the Patriots last night to try to get back in the 4th, but regardless of what Brett Veach does, before I get into any of that, again, thank you guys for viewing in and listening in, whether you're live streaming, podcasting, or YouTubing. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope that you guys hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, man. We're trying to grow the brand and trying to get out there further and reach more folks out there to join the conversation with us at The Spoken, and we appreciate everybody that's already been a part of it. Our guy Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, decided to show back up. He ran out of PTO at The Spoken Podcast, so he's back with us for the time being, and we appreciate him being back. Eddie, did you have fun on your little vacation?
Oh, man, I had a blast, except last week, but we don't want to talk about that.
Oh, that's a different kind of
No, it's okay.
Kind of blast,
you can let him know about the crab incident if you like, Eddie. It's fine with me.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of the ocean as is. I just hate the fact of fishes swimming around me or any sea creatures swimming around me. So I'm already going in there with I guess with scare or whatnot of the ocean. Anxiety, correct. And, I'm just, chilling there with my friends. I'm just having a good time. And then next thing you know, I just feel like this really, really sharp pinch on my back, my lower back. It was really, really sharp. When I say sharp, it hurt. And then I turned around and it was a crab. And then I was like, oh, shit. And then I swiped at it. And then I sent it to my buddy. And then my buddy, he was not close, super close to me. I would say there was probably 10 feet in between us. And he saw the crab. It was halfway between us. And he saw the crab. He pointed at it. He was like, oh, look, it's a crab. He was so excited. But as soon as he said, oh, it's a crab, that sumbitch just fucking took off and pinched his stomach really hard. So it pinched his stomach, and then he started boxing the crab, and then he started zigzagging in the water while boxing the crab, and then out of nowhere he swiped the water, and the crab went away, and so did we. So yes.
Well, the NFL has themselves a little crab right now that's attacking them, and it's one Mr. Brett Veach. And I appreciate Eddie for giving that that actual story because when he first told me that, I think I was dry heaving from the laughter that I was experiencing, man, because that was one of the funniest fucking. I've never heard somebody actually get attacked by a crab and then the crab turn around and went after. It was like the Joe Pesci of crabs, It was let me at him.
Yeah, he fucking tag team does.
Well, like I said, guys, Brett Veach is out here attacking like a crab out there in the ocean because this dude is out here making moves. I said the offseason to me showed that the Chiefs were clearly going to be as aggressive as all the other AFC teams were in free agency and in trades because the Chiefs were completely conservative in free agency. They made some signings, but it was nothing that I think shocked or wooed or really moved the needle at a dramatic effect, especially with what the Chiefs lost in Tyreek Hill and Tyrann Mathieu. So I was convinced of myself that, okay, the Chiefs are clearly going to make some serious moves and swing some heavy haymakers in the draft. And that's exactly what they've done in the first 2 days of the draft. And I don't expect anything less or different in day 3 as this is going on today. So I just want to go over a little overview. We're going to have our guy from Kingdom Says Podcast, Arrowhead Tom, joining us this week. He was going to join us last week. We had some things come up. We had some, last-second things go on. But he's going to give us his review on what he thinks the Chiefs have done right now. I've been reading some of his tweets, and I hope that you guys go and follow him at Arrowhead Tom on Twitter because he has great breakdowns, and he gives an honest viewpoint and opinion on what he sees from each and every draft pick. And so far, I've seen him be very, very optimistic, like the majority of people out there. And I'm going to give you guys some quotes from some big-time draft gurus and people that follow the NFL very closely from NFL Network and other websites. But just to give you guys a little bit of a rundown of where the Chiefs are at right now, their first overall pick, they traded up to the 21st pick from 29, and cornerback, defensive back, Trent Mcduffie out of Washington. Then they went in at 30 and got themselves an edge rush, George Karlaftis out of Purdue. Then in the second round, they went and got Skye Moore. They actually traded back from the 50th pick to the 54th pick and got themselves Skye Moore out of Western Michigan. Then later on, last night in the third round, they went and got themselves safety Brian Cook out of Cincinnati. And in the third round as well, they went and got themselves Leo Chenal, the linebacker out of Wisconsin. So, it's Wisconsin, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Wisconsin. So, yeah, I always get those. For some reason, I see the Wisconsin logo, and I always get them mixed up with Rutgers, even though they're different letters. It's the same color scheme and everything. It always drives me nuts. But it's Wisconsin. Well, I want to give you guys a couple quotes from people that are paid a lot of money to cover the NFL and the NFL draft. A guy that actually follows the Chiefs really closely from the NFL Network is James Palmer. Something he tweeted out last night. This is literally his words, quote, "Chiefs, man, this is a solid draft so far for Brett Veach. Needs and value, can't beat that," end quote. Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network and Move the Sticks podcast, quote, "Patrick Mahomes is going to have a lot of fun throwing to Skye Moore. Wins right off the line with great hands, lots of smiles in Kansas City," end quote. Greg Bedard, founder of the Boston Sports Journal, quote, "Chiefs take linebacker Leo Chenal, the last of the impactful linebackers. KC got McDuffie, Karlaftis, Moore, and Chenal, and Brian Cook. Hot damn," end quote. These are just a few, and I was going through a list of people that were saying things, and a lot of them are more leaning Chiefs-friendly guys, like Trey Wingo, who is an actual Chiefs fan. So I didn't really want to give those guys, like a lot of
a little bias in there.
Yeah, because there's some bias in there. You can always be optimistic, like we are on this show. Sometimes we can be a little bit leaning towards, pro Chiefs, obviously, as you can see Trevor and Eddie's backdrop, but I wanted to get the opinions of people that really have no actual connection or attachment to the Chiefs. And you're seeing guys from the Boston Damn Journal, the founder of the Boston Journal, saying hot damn when it comes to these draft picks. And look, guys, you got my mentality. Trevor and I had our breakdown last week and how I felt that the Chiefs needed to go about the draft. I said they needed to go and trade up as far as they could and get the best edge rush. I was big on Kayvon Thibodeau. I was big on Jermaine Johnson. I was big on Trayvon Walker and Aiden Hutchinson. Those guys ended up not being the realistic selections for the Chiefs. But something I know about Brett Veach is that when he has his mind set on an in particular individual, he's going to end up getting them, or at least doing everything he can to get them. And the trade up for McDuffie, although a cornerback position, I didn't have the Chiefs getting until the 4th round. I didn't see the Chiefs going for the cornerback until the 4th round. Clearly, they saw something different in this scenario, but I think there was some genius to it outside of just adding the talent of McDuffie to this said team. It's the fact that also the Chiefs did something that I think was so intentional and so brilliant of keeping more talent away from another competitor in the AFC. What I mean by that is we knew that the Bills were trying to get a cornerback first in the draft because they need cornerback help. Poyer and guys like that are starting to get hurt. Tre'Davious White's been hurt. There's a lot of questions in that secondary now. And the AFC's gotten stronger at quarterback, more wide receivers, things of that nature. The Bills know they got to up their defense. And you saw that the Bills were trying to trade up into the early 20s to get McDuffie.
Yeah.
And so the Chiefs decided, fuck that. We're moving from 29 to 21 to jump them from 23, and we're going to go get the guy they wanted to.
Brett Veach made it clear he didn't think that McDuffie would even be there at that point in the draft.
Yeah, and so when he fell that far, and then he saw another team that, let's be honest, is the 1B to the Chiefs 1A in the AFC.
Right.
They're like, yeah, we're not going to let that guy fall to them because we didn't think he was, like you said, we didn't think he was going to be there anyway. So we'll be damned if we let him fall further than we thought he was going to be and then fall to the team that is coming at us and coming at us strong. So that was a genius move in my opinion for the Chiefs, even though, again, I didn't value cornerback the same way the Chiefs did. But then at 30, the Chiefs do everything and anything I wanted them to do, which is to solidify edge rush. a guy in George Karlaftis that, although he wasn't the biggest guy on my board, admittedly so, he is still a guy that every single note I'm seeing from people is a positive. There are things that obviously you can critique in his game. We're going to get to that in a second from people that I trust that have far surpassed my understanding or my ability to break down talent. But these guys that we see in the first round alone are automatic wins because why? We knew that cornerback and edge rush were the biggest needs on the defensive side for the Chiefs. And the Chiefs went out there and answered it immediately. Everybody was obsessed with trading up for a wide receiver. And I had been pounding the table and telling people, guys, that is not what the Chiefs are doing. There was one thing I was sure of, and it was that the Chiefs were not trading up for a wide receiver because that is not their biggest need. And I think that they showed us in free agency one of the few moves they made was going and signing 2 free agents with Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS. Now, MVS isn't an answer, but he is depth. And I think the Chiefs were confident in not only the fact that they got those 2 guys, but they also knew that the draft was going to fall in the way that guys like Skye Moore and George Pickens were going to be there in the 2nd and 3rd round, which is exactly how it went down. And the Chiefs were so confident that guys like Skye Moore were going to be there that they moved from 50 to 54 to add another pick. So it was genius in how they even got their own receiver. But I knew that wasn't going to be the case, and I love the fact that the Chiefs went out there and got immediate needs at the most important positions of need this offseason by going and getting Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis. And again, with Skye Moore, initially I was of the belief the Chiefs were going to go and add more depth to the big receiver mix. I thought that's what they were going to do. And again, we're going to break that down in just a second. But I love everything I'm seeing in film. And again, for the 2nd straight night, I did not get sleep because I was watching and paying attention closely to the film of these guys. But with Skye Moore, it was easier because there were so many people that were coming out and telling me what I needed to know about Skye Moore that had been paying attention to him much longer than I have been, which was about 3 hours. And everything they told me was everything the Chiefs needed out of a wide receiver. A fast guy that can get off the break, that can do things in multiple positions, whether it's slot, whether it's wide out, this guy is versatile. This guy was actually a quarterback and a defensive back before he became a wide receiver. I was listening to Jay Binkley's show on 610 before the show today, and they had his coach on there from Western Michigan. And he was saying that he started out as a quarterback, then put him at defensive back, and then realized, no, this guy's a wide receiver. So there was like the Julian Edelman
Which is
comparison.
usually the other way around.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was like the Julian Edelman comparison, how this guy has all the brains, and then they found his perfect spot. So now he knows what the quarterback position is supposed to do. He knows what the defensive backs are going to do against him, and he plays the position that's going to benefit the quarterback and diffuse what the defensive backs are going to do.
Those instincts.
This guy could be the steal of the draft, man. I'm not trying to get out of the head of it, but just knowing the value of the position of where the Chiefs took him and how much people are hyping this dude up with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback in Andy Reid's system, it's really, really difficult to not get excited about Skye Moore and what he could do day one. Now, it is Andy Reid's offense, so we do know that it's going to be a little bit difficult for guys to walk in here and all of a sudden just flourish. That doesn't usually happen. Yeah. Not even Tyreek Hill did that. It took a couple years for Tyreek Hill to really become who he was. But I would believe that if Tyreek Hill had Patrick Mahomes day one in 2016, if Tyreek Hill or Patrick Mahomes had been on this team a couple years earlier, Tyreek Hill would have been even better that much quicker.
And Tyreek Hill wasn't nearly as a polished receiver as Skye Moore is
100%
in the draft. So
he played a lot of running back.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Even
So-
a special teamer, too. Yeah.
And then, obviously, the Chiefs took 2 more picks before the night was over in day 2. They got safety Brian Cook out of Cincinnati and linebacker Leo Chenal out of Wisconsin. And look, Clay Windler, our producer and the guy that runs Red Tribe Cinema, he was messaging me a lot of stuff about the safety out of Cincinnati, Brian Cook. This guy, he runs a 4.440, and I'm not big on the whole combine stuff because he actually didn't get to play in the combine a lot, or he didn't get to perform in the combine at all because he had a shoulder injury that he has recovered from fully. But a 4.4 flat 40 plus a vertical over 38 inches at 6'1", 209 pounds, and is an absolute rocker, a guy that can actually knock you off your shoes, is a guy that I want on my team no matter what position you're taking him at. If this guy's a third-round pick or a second-round pick, sign me up, man. If you can get that type of physicality at it, because at this point of the draft, you're looking for guys that have the physical traits that your coaching staff can get the most out of. You don't have to look at the most polished players. That's what the first round's for. You're looking for guys that are in the first round that can day one be the guy. You know, Aiden Hutchinson, day one is going to be the Lions guy. Yeah. Day one, Trent McDuffie is going to be the Chiefs guy. Karlaftis is going to be the Chiefs guy. Will they work on things? Yes, they're rookies. But they're sure things, or as close to sure things as you could possibly get. Mm-hmm. But in 2, 3, 4, and beyond rounds, You're looking for guys that your coaching staff can make them into projects and get the most out of them within year 1, year 2, year 3, and beyond. I think that Brian Cook and Leo Chenal are those guys, and I think that Spagnuolo is licking his chops looking at the talent these guys has. I mean, Leo Chenal literally has a tattoo on his arm that says death row. I mean, the Chiefs went from Tyrann Mathieu being rent is due to now having Leo Chenal and death row. I kind of like that one a lot. Now, there's obviously some proving grounds here. We're going to have to see what this guy can do, but the Chiefs needed linebacker so bad. In fact, it was the third on my board. It was the third position I wanted to see the Chiefs go after, and that's what they did. They went and got themselves a strong side linebacker that complements Willie Gay Jr.'s game, Nick Bolton's game in the middle, and can play Mike linebacker if, in fact, Nick Bolton or whoever the other linebacker is in the middle goes down with an injury. So you got versatility. And my favorite thing, and I'm going to start with you guys right after this, my favorite thing about this draft so far, and we have more to go. The Chiefs have at least 6, 7, 8 more picks to go in this draft, which excites the shit out of me as well, because you can find a lot of value in day 3. The Chiefs did everything I wanted them to do in this draft. I had 8 picks for the Chiefs in this draft. 6 of them were defensive players. I think, Trevor, you had almost the exact same. You had more picks, but you had about the same percentage.
I had 10 total picks, but 6 of them were defensive.
Oh, so you had 50-50. Okay.
Yeah.
I had 8 picks and 6 of them defenders. Eddie, you had a ton of defenders. I think you had them taking 3 defensive backs. I think you had them taking a couple linebackers. We all had the similar mindset. The Chiefs have to hit defense. Yeah. And that's exactly what the Chiefs done. 4 of their 5 picks so far are defensive players and are guys that can legitimately be day 1 contributors.
Yep.
I don't know how you guys could be excited about this draft. I can't help you if you don't believe that Brett Veach has done anything other than crush ass in this draft to this point. Could a couple of these guys be busts? Sure. It happens in every single draft. But I think we've seen the progress of Brett Veach in knowing how to identify talent and identify needs in the draft as time has gone on. This is the first draft in 5 years as the general manager for the Chiefs that Brett Veach traded back. You know what that shows me? That the man knows how to calculate aggressiveness. Because that is not aggressive. That's playing, like you said before the show started, Trevor, playing chess. While everyone else is playing checkers. Yeah, that's passive aggressive. That's showing that you have trust in what you know the board to be. The Chiefs said, we're not going to take the hype and go and trade several picks for Jameson Williams in the first 15 picks. We're not going to go out there and try to overshoot on a draft pick. We're going to let our board that we've studied do what it does.
What's funny is we might have sniped the Bills twice, because I know that Skye Moore was even saying that the Bills were the team that were most aggressive on him with his visits, and they were the most communication with him. So I know McDuffie was in communication with the Bills too, and we leapfrogged the Bills to get McDuffie.
You know who didn't even visit with Skye Moore? The Chiefs. They didn't visit with him one time.
Really? I thought he visited.
Not once.
No, I know we had I thought we had a Zoom meeting or something.
No. The Chiefs said that they were studying film on him, and they knew everything they needed to know. They never had a sit down 1-on-1. They did with George Pickens several times. They talked to Chris Olave. They talked to
we might have sniped the Bills twice, bro. In this
yeah, dude. So this is why I'm so excited, because, like I said, they kept the competition at bay by going and getting guys that they knew they wanted. And they got guys that can immediately impact this defense and make this defense that much better. Because as I said on the show last week, and I'll say it again and again and again, Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl success is going to hinge on how great the defense is. Because we know that Patrick Mahomes is always going to keep this offense in the top 5 to 10 every single year.
Yep.
This is always going to be a premier offense as long as Patrick Mahomes is who he is. So the Chiefs have to give him something that he can rely on the other side of things when he's not Superman every single game. Because Patrick Mahomes won't be Superman every single game. We saw that in the AFC Championship last year. First half, Patrick Mahomes is impenetrable. He was spectacular. That was some of the best quarterback play I've ever seen. In the second half, he was terrible. You need to have a defense that can pick you up when you fall down, when all of a sudden the kryptonite hits you. And they didn't have that. They couldn't get to the quarterback. Karlaftis is the type of guy that can be that guy. High motor, power rush, being able to knock tackles off on their asses and go and get the quarterback. That is exactly what the Chiefs need. A lockdown cornerback that can play both outside and inside slot corner, a lot like Tyrann Mathieu did with Trent McDuffie. I love this. I could not be more excited about it. If I had to give this draft a letter grade, it's A, just based on the mentality alone. But when you look at the talent, when you look at the versatility, and you look at the smarts of these players the Chiefs grabbed, I think they've had a top top 5 draft in the NFL this year. I think the Jets, Lions, Giants, teams like that have had great drafts. Eagles, I think they had a great draft. Outside of those teams, I think the Chiefs have had a better draft than anybody else, and there's been some good draft picks from the Ravens and other teams like that.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs have absolutely crushed ass, and Brett Veach deserves all the praise for what he's done so far, and I can't wait to see what they do from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, starting the draft off with a cornerback, I was not very happy, to be honest with you. And I don't know much. I still don't know too much about McDuffie. I've been watching his film lately. And I mean, it's a Washington corner, a Washington DB, so I mean, that should excite you regardless with the past that we've had with Marcus Peters and, playmakers coming out of Washington. They breed them there. So, I mean, it grew on me. It took me a minute to really, because I really wanted the best edge rusher there, especially trading up to get somebody. I was like, for sure trading up to get an edge rusher, an immediate impact player. And so McDuffie was a little anticlimactic for me at the moment because I didn't know him the name really well. I didn't know of him, but once I watched his film and I really kind of started to get to know the personality and the high IQ of this kid, then it kind of started easing me into loving that pick. So now I am loving that pick. Just because my personal ignorance to who he is. So now I'm definitely loving that pick and trading up to get him because the Bills most likely would have got a really good playmaker ahead of us if we didn't make that move and be aggressive there. So kudos to Veach for that move. But this draft has gone. It's rare as especially as a yearly contender like the Chiefs to have a draft fall into your favor. Not only the players of need are there, but they're also value picks. It's very rare to find value picks that are also need guys that are filling an immediate position that can be day one starters, and that's all that's happened for the Chiefs so far in this draft. And they positioned themselves every single pick so far. Karlaftis, the first two guys with McDuffie and Karlaftis are two high IQ playmaker guys. They're going to be just consistent guys, just relentless playmakers, just consistently there. Guys on their film that are shown to be in the right place at the right time more times than not, knowing where to position themselves to make plays on the ball. And those two picks right there are immediate guys that can be day one starters. Karlaftis, I'm excited about that kid. That kid, everything, all the reports I've been seeing about him and the film combined with the reports, he's an engine guy. He's a motor guy. He's a guy that's just nonstop, relentless, and that's what you want from a defensive end. May not have the most moves, may not have the great first step speed, but is a guy that's always going to be there and has a nose for the ball. So I love that out of him. And then obviously Skye Moore. I forgot he was on the board when we drafted him. I really didn't. I was thinking about receivers because we both know we wanted a receiver there. But we didn't know who was really left in the mix. There was a couple guys that we knew, but I didn't realize Skye Moore was still there. And I knew that name just from a lot of hype on the offseason with his incredible hands and his ball tracking ability and his route running. The numbers on him are pretty crazy. I posted it on the group, but I mean, Matt Harmon, who is a guy that who's an analyst for fantasy football that I go to a lot to picking and analyzing receivers that I would draft for my fantasy teams. But he also, obviously, the numbers are the numbers, regardless if we're talking fantasy or real life. These are the numbers. He ranked second among charted prospects in success rate versus man at 75% and was 75.7% success rate against press coverage. Led all prospects in success rate versus zone coverage, which is what we struggled against the most last year. The zone two-man zone coverage, we were having trouble against that. He led all prospects in success rate versus zone coverage, 88.1%. And he can play the inside and the outside. So he's a guy, an ultimate chess piece that you can move around offensively that will open up this offense. And he's really good with the ball in his hands after the catch. Incredible route runner, incredible hands, which is what we've been missing. We were having too much drops last year. So this is a guy I think that could come in and you just put him in wherever you want and move him around. And he's going to be an immediate contributor. I think he's a polished guy already, ready to go to be an NFL-ready wide receiver, especially this offense. I know it's going to take some time to learn the plays, but as far as ability and hands and just overall knowledge of the route tree, I think this kid is going to be an immediate impact player. I'm excited to see what he can bring to this offense. So we went, the first two defensive players we went were like really high IQ guys, relentless, playmakers. Then we get Skye Moore, the receiver. I didn't even realize was on the board. Love that pick so much. I'm excited to see that kid in this offense. And then we get the Bash brothers with our the last two picks so far. Brian Cook and Chanel. These guys are just guys out there just putting dudes in coffins, man. Like I was watching their film, I was like, Cook is just an absolute monster. Like he was out there just laying guys out. Just looked like that throwback safety kind of feel, like that he's also really good at coverage, but this dude is one of those guys that you fear. He's honestly, has a little bit of the guy we just signed, Reed. They're similar players. They're both really good at laying guys out and finishing plays, making sure they're not getting back up. They're laying guys out, and they're coming across the middle. If anyone's in their area, they're getting hands on them. That's the kind of vibe I get from Brian Cook, and I love that. That's going to bring a new aggressive vibe to the safety room. Just a guy that knows how to lay the wood, knows how to put his head into the football and shoulder into the chest of these players. Excited to see that. And then Chanel, I was watching film on him. That guy's another bruiser. These are two bruiser guys, you know what I mean? So we got the balance of really high IQ, consistent guys, motor guys at the top, and then Skye Moore obviously with the offense, and then two more absolute bruisers, Bash brother type players here to finish out these last couple rounds of this draft. Ecstatic is the word for me. I think that we've nailed this draft from top to bottom so far, and I'm excited to see what depth we add here in these later rounds and what we possibly move up into to get. There's still a shit ton of talent in this draft. For me, man, personally, I couldn't be more excited. We've went heavy defense on this draft, which is what we needed, and we've also got a lot of great value on offense with Skye Moore. So I'm ecstatic, man. I'm excited to see what Brett Veach does today.
Not to add too much. I was really happy with the 2 first picks in the first round. I've really watched a lot of film on both of them. I haven't really watched anything from the guys last night, but as to what I'm hearing you guys say and what I've been reading, we really hit the lottery. Well, Veach hit the lottery with these 3 picks from yesterday, and then obviously we still got way more to come today. But with the first 2 picks, I don't have really any big concerns or any of them. Like you said, they're both day one starters, day one contributors, and they've shown it. I've seen their highlights, and they're really good. The corner that we drafted, he's really good at the slot. He's really good at everything you need from a corner, which is exactly what these Chiefs were desperately in need of. With Ward going to the 49ers, he obviously had a big hole to fill there. So I'm happy that they chose to trade up and take what was best available for the corners at that moment in time. The only bang on to his game, which really it could be fixed within the first couple games, it's just him not being able to get away from the tackle. Once he gets engaged in that tackle with the receiver, he cannot get away from it. So that's one little thing that obviously can be fixed real easily. Just hitting the gym and obviously doing your thing. So I'm not too concerned there because, like I said, that's an easy fix. With Karlaftis, the amount of power that he pushes through the offensive line to get to the quarterback. Yeah, he doesn't get in a lot of sacks. But he puts that pressure on the quarterback, which is what we need. That's what Chris Jones needs to help with. He just needs somebody to help put the pressure to where he or Karlaftis can now finish the plays, which is what the Chiefs were desperately in need of.
He's got a water polo wrestling background.
Yeah, so somebody that can finish those plays. And obviously, you got the fact that you're going to have Chris Jones on that line with you. So that helps elevate your skills and what you bring to this Chiefs defense. Like I said, the only negative on his game is he relies way too much on his power. Once he gets stopped in the offensive line, it's really hard for him to get around it. But that's an easy fix. It's nothing to be concerned or worry about. It's like I said, just hitting the gym a little bit more, put a little bit more muscle, you should be good. There's really no concern with that one.
Just some more technique. He's got to learn some more technique.
We can't bash these guys. They're just rookies coming out of college.
Right.
So I'm really, really excited what they can bring to this defense. And I'm glad Brett Veach went out there and got defense first, because that is our main that was our main focus coming into this draft. Mm-hmm. Yes, I had us taking a wide receiver with our second pick in the first round, but I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we waited to the next round to take our receiver, because obviously we took best available at that moment in time. I know a lot of people were wanting Pickens, but this pick that we got, Skye Moore, sky's the limit, baby.
Yeah, that's right, baby.
Sky's the limit.
What more could you ask for?
Exactly. So, and what I've seen just this morning, a little bit of his tapes, whew, like he
Who was correct?
Hands. Kid's got hands, dude.
Yeah, I believe he had the biggest hands in the combine.
And he's 5'9".
Biggest hands in the combine.
You know what big hands means?
You know what that means?
Big gloves.
Oh, okay. I was thinking another thing. Oh, shit. No, but...
You're thinking about crabs?
Yeah, I'm so excited to see him with Patrick Mahomes, man. What Patrick Mahomes can do with him is going to be magic. And we needed somebody like that to come in and help with that cover zone that the Chiefs obviously struggle with. And him being one of the best in this draft class at that kind of defense.
Yep.
It's so exciting to see, and what can he bring to this offense? Obviously, with Patrick Mahomes, all you need is a little bit, and
you got it. So that's the thing, man. Is that I think that I would think you guys would agree with me on this. That adding the addition of Skye Moore really softens the blow of losing Tyreek now. And they didn't have to, once again, like I said earlier, they didn't have to use a first-round pick or trade up to get that type of replacement. They got him at 54.
Well, what I like about this too, man, I just want to say this. Like, the last couple of receivers we've drafted, obviously like the McCole Hardmans, the Tyreek Hills.
Yeah, exactly. The Chiefs traded back.
The last two guys that have been like steady parts of this offense at receiver were project guys.
Yeah.
This is a true polished receiver that was arguably the best route runner in this draft.
Yeah.
You know, and has the biggest hands and has some of the greatest hands in this draft. And obviously, I went over the route tree with you and his success against man coverage, press coverage, and then the best receiver in this draft against the zone, which is what we struggle with. So that is what excites me the most about this kid is he's a polished, ready to go receiver. He's not a returner. He's not a guy that we're gonna have to work with to be, the receiver we want him to be. He's already that.
Right.
Yeah, he's not a project.
That's what I love about that. That's the last couple of guys we've drafted. And even the Powells and guys like that just haven't worked out. They were never the caliber of player that Skye Moore is, and I can't be more excited about it, man.
Another thing I love is the fact that the Chiefs, although, like I said, my mentality and Brett Veach's mentality of how we can build this defense was different, the Chiefs had a plan. This was a plan. We're going to build our secondary as strong and as versatile as we possibly can. And Karlaftis, if he can just give us that lift, plus maybe going and signing a Melvin Ingram or a Jerry Hughes as a free agent to get a rotational piece.
Still happen.
All of a sudden the Chiefs have a very respectable pass rush. Would they still need work? Would it be a top-tier pass rush? No. But if you can get yourself bookend pass rushers with Karlaftis as a rookie and like a Melvin Ingram, a Jerry Hughes, even maybe both if you could afford it, then all of a sudden you're talking about, you have Chris Jones in the middle. You have a motivated secondary to prove what they are as a young bunch.
I still want to go get another one.
Yeah, you can still add a defensive back, a veteran defensive back that's still available, maybe like a Kyle Fuller or somebody like that, just for depth. Then all of a sudden you're looking at a defense that is strong, or at least respectable at worst, at all three levels. Because we know the linebackers are going to be strong as fuck this year. Nick Bolton, already a proven commodity. Yeah. Willie Gay, proven commodity.
Healthy.
Yeah, you go and get yourself Leo Chenal next to those guys. Yeah. All of a sudden you have one of the most versatile athletic linebacking groups in the entire NFL. We went from Anthony Hitchens and Ben Neiman and Damian Wilson to these cats. Oh, dude, just sign me up. And so I wanted to real quick, we're going to have our guy Arrowhead Tom on in just a little bit, I think around noon. But a website that I really respect and a guy that I'm going to have on our show very soon, Chiefs Wire. A guy, Charles Goldman, a guy I respect big time. He's a great follow on Twitter, and Chiefs Wire has incredible content, man. I don't know why they don't get enough publicity or enough respect, but these guys are always well in depth. I wanted to give you guys Charles Goldman's grades and then my quick opinion on what Goldman thought and just some additional thoughts on these picks. So Trent McDuffie, he has him as a B grade. These are his quotes from Trent McDuffie. Quote, the last defensive player that Kansas City drafted in the first round was last defensive back player that the Chiefs drafted in the first round was Washington cornerback Marcus Peters. A few years later, they had taken another Huskies defensive back with the penchant for disrupting plays. He didn't allow a touchdown last season and only allowed 16 catches on 36 targets, according to PFF. I'm a fan of this pick, and I think that the Chiefs Kingdom is really going to like the way McDuffie plays. He gives it all on the football field, and he plays with a lot of heart. He reminds me of a Tyrann Mathieu in the sense that he's not going to be the biggest guy in the field, but he's going to compete like he is. He's also a really instinctive player, similar to Peters, and his instincts are often the right ones. I love how quick he is to close and make a tackle. I think the biggest qualm that people will have is the compensation, giving up a third and fourth pick as well as the 29th. That's not too much when you have a dozen picks, but it's definitely more than most of us would have liked. Look, end quote, by the way. If that's the only takeaway we can have that's negative on McDuffie, and like Eddie did bring up the fact that he's not the biggest guy and he struggles against big receivers, which is the majority of what cornerbacks struggle with, which is big receivers.
Will he be worth his draft capital?
Yes. Sign me up. And again, I think it's going to make Chiefs fans, because we talk about the Skye Moore comparison to like a Tyreek Hill kind of player and how that softens the blows of losing Tyreek Hill. All the more reason why the addition of McDuffie should soften the blow of losing Tyrann Mathieu. Because if there are comparisons to the mentality and the work ethic and how he plays on the field, then you're essentially getting that plus more athleticism and about 10 years younger on the field in replacing of said Tyrann Mathieu. So the Chiefs knew what they were doing here. This makes sense as to why they didn't sign back Tyrann Mathieu, because they had a goal in mind to replace him in this draft. And that is a championship mentality to have when you're replacing older and aging veterans with guys that can bring the same or something close to what they bring on a week in and week out basis for much cheaper and at much younger. And so I absolutely love this pick, and again, McDuffie is not a Spags kind of corner. Spags like usually bigger corners, 6 foot and above. Yeah. That's why guys like Charvarius Ward flourished in this defense, because he's a bigger corner. McDuffie's not that, but even on the smaller side, he can still be used on the outside of the numbers while also being confident on the inside, like you said, with the versatility. So although he may not be the norm or the status quo of what Spags gets, he can give Spags a lot of options on how he wants to use him. And that excites the living hell out of me, man. And when it comes to George Karlaftis, Goldman has him at an A-. Goldman says, quote, "While some moments I saw from George Karlaftis on tape elicited flashbacks of Breeland Speaks, there are a few things I really liked about this pick. The first thing that I liked about this pick was the value. The Chiefs didn't have to move up to get their guy at edge rusher. Yes.
Right.
Which feels like a big win. They let the board fall and got a player that many considered among the top 5 pass rushers in this draft class. The second thing here I like here is that I like Karlaftis' age. In a class that is loaded with older prospects due to COVID-19, Kansas City gets a kid who is just 21 years old, and they get 5 years of control. If he makes it to contract number 2 with the Chiefs, they'll be stacking more good years during what should realistically be the prime of his career. If there's something I don't like about this pick, Karlaftis is a power rusher. The team doesn't have much good speed off the edge right now, and that feels like it could be potentially be problematic," end quote. Now, he's right about that. The Chiefs do not have the quick edge rush right now. And I was hoping that would be something they look at, because Kayvon Thibodeau is the kind of guy that would do that. Yeah. But the Chiefs obviously weren't going to be able to get him, because he was going to be at 5. I had the Chiefs trading up to 7. So the Chiefs weren't realistically going to get Kayvon Thibodeau. The Giants clearly valued him for what he is, which is going to be an elite pass rusher in this league. But I did listen to Lance Zierlein yesterday, a guy that is as well as in the know of the NFL draft as anybody, and he has a pretty kick-ass name, Lance. He actually made a really good comparison, because some people were comparing Karlaftis to J.J. Watt, which is extremely high praise, because that's one of the greatest defenders of all time. But I heard Lance Zierlein make a comparison yesterday to Ryan Kerrigan, the longtime Washington Commander.
Love that, yeah.
Holy shit. If Karlaftis can be Ryan Kerrigan, a guy who has currently 99.5 career sacks,
consistency,
who had 4 seasons of over 11 sacks in his career, a guy that never had under 7.5 sacks for his first 9 seasons.
Was a power guy and got there.
A power guy.
Yep.
If Karlaftis can be that, oh my God, sign me up. You got him at 30? Trevor, you and I talked last week on the show about how you can't hope to go and get a premier pass rusher outside of the first round, because if you look at the top half of all the best pass rushers in the league outside of Max Crosby, who's just an exception to the rule in the 4th round.
Bean compared him to.
Yeah. Which, by the way, exactly. Yeah. Karlaftis did compare him to Max Crosby.
Yep.
Every single one of the best pass rushers, almost every single one of them, were found in the first round, and most of them in the top 16. So outside of TJ Watt, the most premier pass rushers you're finding in the first 16, 17 picks.
He was only second to Aiden Hutchinson in pressure rate.
Yes.
Second.
And Aiden Hutchinson went second in the draft. Right. So even people were undervaluing him to a sense. Yeah. I know Jacksonville was the only team that undervalued him, because Aiden Hutchinson would have went to any of these other teams afterwards. Yeah. The point remains is that we're looking for sure things in this draft. And to me, Karlaftis is one of those guys, because also what I love about him is the fact that he's a guy that is all about the work. He's not one of these dudes that's just going to rest on,
Gym
I'm
rat.
talented as fuck.
Yeah.
No, because honestly, compared to guys like Trayvon Walker and Tavon Thibodeau, he's not as talented as they are.
Yeah.
So he's the kind of guy that's going to bust his ass to get what he can get. I want a motor guy, and that's the biggest part of his game is that he's a motor dude, a dude that's going to be hell-bent to get pressure on the quarterback. And that's going to make the job of Chris Jones that much easier. Because if you're getting pressure on the outside, that right guard is going to have to start respecting that a little bit more, which opens up things on the inside where Chris Jones can get a one-on-one with the center, and he's just going to obliterate that guy. So it's beautiful what the Chiefs just got at 30 for Karlaftis, and they stayed in the first round and got him at 30. They didn't wait for somebody in the second or third round. They went and got him when they knew he'd be there. I was listening to Brett Veach talk to him on the phone. He goes, hey man, we were paying attention the whole time, and you were a guy we were paying attention to. When you fell at 30, it was a common sense move. We had to take you. I love what this dude is. I know everyone's calling him the Greek Freak. I'm calling him Greco because it's a little bit more original and it stays within the Greek realms because he's from Athens, Greece originally. But I love the mentality this guy has, and it's rare. It's rare to have a guy that has the talent of a first round pick and has the mentality of a winner before he ever wins anything. It's rare to get that. And I think that when you have guys like that, it's rare that they don't succeed. I think this dude is going to absolutely crush ass in the Spagnuolo's defense. And then we have Skye Moore. Obviously, Charles Goldman gives him an A grade. And this is, I love what Goldman says. He says, quote, fair warning, Moore is a draft crush of mine, so this is going to be a little bit of a homer take.
Seems to be everybody's draft crush.
I think this is a great player to match what the Chiefs already have at the wide receiver position. He wins with his route running, footwork, head fakes, and just generally having great knowledge of the game. Moore isn't the biggest receiver, but he catches everything that comes his way. Only 3 drops on 125 targets last season. He got solid 4.4 speed. I don't know how much he will contribute as a rookie, but being the Andy Reid system is notoriously hard to learn, but I do think he'll look back on this as a very good pick. I was of the belief, this is actually something I was saying, I was of the belief that Chiefs were going to continue the trend of adding sizable receivers, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
But Skye Moore is anything but that. 5'10", 195 pounds. Moore brings more of a Tyreek than a Juju to the mix. And the speed of agility and getting off the line creates separation versus man coverage, which should excite everyone. But my favorite aspect of Skye Moore's game is his reliable hands, as Charles talked about, and his versatility in lining up in the slot and not losing any real production. Again, think about this, guys. As a college player, 121 targets, only 3 drops? Like that's absurd in college. Like that sounds like a top-tier pro-level player. Like, outside of DeAndre Hopkins, everyone has drops. Tyreek Hill, a guy we all love. What do you have, 7-8 drops last season?
Yeah, it was too much last year. Yeah.
So think about what Skye Moore is bringing to the equation. Sure, he's undersized. But like McDuffie, when he plays like the baddest motherfucker on the field, you forget about that stuff. And when you can produce, when you have these big-ass hands that are freaking buckets for the ball to fall into, all of a sudden the size stuff doesn't matter. And Tyreek Hill, as great as he was, a lot of times the drops would cost the Chiefs. The last throw of Patrick Mahomes' season last year was what? A Tyreek Hill drop that fell right into the hands of a defensive back for the Bengals.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen with Skye Moore.
He's got Tyreek athletic abilities. He's got DeAndre Hopkins' hands with Keenan Allen routes. Like, that's pretty much what he is.
And here's the thing. I'm trying to stay realistic because I do believe that Goldman's correct on this. That his rookie year is probably going to be one of those, okay, he's really going to have to work his way into this offense.
I don't know about that.
But think about this. What is working his way into the offense? Not being the wide receiver 1? Okay. Juju Smith-Schuster could be the wide receiver 1. Travis Kelce could be the wide receiver 1 for a year. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with it. It's not like Skye Moore's walking into an offense where he has to be the man. Right now, he's wide receiver 3. Travis Kelce is a glorified wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's led the league in receiving yards since 2016, and Juju Smith-Schuster is a walking 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. You already have those 2 guys there. And Skye Moore doesn't even have to be the immediate deep threat because you have McCole Hardman and you have MVS.
That's not even really what he is, though. He's not the most. His 9 route was his worst route.
Right.
So that not necessarily that he can't get better at that, but that's not what he's not coming in to be a deep threat. He's coming in to be a full package. Right. X guy, a guy that's beating the 2-man. You know what I mean? That's incredible. That's why I kind of compared his route running abilities to Keenan Allen, because that's what Keenan Allen's been his whole career.
Right.
A guy's not going to burn you a lot. He's not the most athletic guy, but Skye Moore is very athletic compared to Keenan Allen. but his route running ability, his ability to beat man and get you over the middle and zig and zag, and his abilities to create space is what reminds me kind of a Keenan Allen-esque type of receiver.
And then Charles Goldman goes on with Brian Cook. Is Tom with us? All right, we'll get to him in just a second. Tom, hang with us. I just want to get to Brian Cook real quick. What Charles Goodman said. He said, quote, "This is the enforcement the Chiefs lack in the secondary. After offseason departures, Cook plays fast, hits hard. He's a natural leader in the secondary. He has the gas that lit the fire for a Cincinnati Bearcats defense that was one of the better units in the nation last season. I think the one big question with Cook is his long speed and matching up against slot receivers. He's big and physical, enough to handle tight ends and running backs and the out of the backfield, but I think he could take some time adjusting to the shiftier guys in the NFL." Unquote. Gave him a B+ on that because of the value of the draft selection.
I love his film, man.
This is the kind of guy I talked about with Spags being the guy that utilizes his talents and turns him into an NFL player. It's going to probably take him some time, but the beautiful thing is, like I said, with the versatility that they already have in the secondary, he's not going to have to come in day one and be the guy. Yeah. They already have Justin Reed. They already have Juan Thornhill is on a prove-it notice right now. He's on notice.
He's got that Ed Reed about him, though. He's got that, I'm going to put everything on you, bro. Like, he's his ability to be there and make those timely tackles and square up and hit the guy the right way and lay guys out. It just reminded me of like those Ed Reed kind of hits on his film, and I was loving every second of it.
Well, we are privileged and honored to have a guy that we've had on the show before, and I was so excited to get him back because this is a dude that knows what he's talking about, and there's not many of us that do. So let's give it up for the co-host of the Kingdom Says podcast, Mr. Arrowhead Tom. How we doing today, Tommy?
Hey, I'm doing great. I think I'm with the rest of Chiefs Kingdom and saying I've really enjoyed the picks that Brett Veach has made so far. So, yeah, excited to talk about them and see what the rest of the draft holds. But, man, it's exciting for this Chiefs defense to get the facelift that's needed for a while now.
Well, let's get right to it, Tom, because this is what I said last week on our draft prediction show. Although it went a lot different in how I saw the Chiefs structuring their defense, I knew that they had to go strong on defense in this draft because they were so conservative in free agency. They didn't upgrade their pass rush at all. In fact, it got worse because as it currently stands, Melvin Ingram is not on the defense. Maybe he will be. Maybe a Jerry Hughes, somebody like that will be here in time to come. But the Chiefs went out and they solidified the biggest areas of needs on the team. Not just the defense, period. They went and got themselves a wide receiver yesterday. They've added linebacker. They've added safeties. They've added corners. They've added edge rush. To me, Brett Veach has done an incredible job at identifying not just talent, but areas of need and has not been afraid to go out there and get his guys, whether it's trading up, like he did for McDuffie, or trading back for a guy like Skye Moore. I love what I've seen. I know, Tom, you've already said it, but I want you to really go into detail here, man, what you've seen in the first 5 picks from the Chiefs draft.
Yeah, so and Brett Veach has talked about this a lot too in his pressers the last couple of days. Is like he's picked guys that are really good values for where they were at. I know that the first move of the draft, the Trent Mcduffie one, felt like a classic Brett Veach. Like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, you trade up, you get a corner when Jermaine Johnson's on the board. You're probably not going to take an edge to the 5th round. It's going to be some 300-pound guy who played defensive tackle until last week that you're going to convert, right? That's what it felt like. Trent McDuffie is a stud of a player. I know everyone's going to talk about the height. If he was an inch taller and his arms were 2 inches longer, people wouldn't even be like. That's the only thing I've heard negative about him. That's really the only thing negative you can find about him is well, he's a little bit small. It's like, but he does everything else you want right. I think the NFL.com guys compared him to Jair Alexander out of Green Bay, and I love that comp for him. There's some other guys that like make some sense, but I think that's like he has such that alpha mentality as a cornerback that you love to see it, and he's a great value for where they got him. Yeah, so I'm all in on McDuffie. Karlaftis, I like. That one again is like that. It felt so inevitable. Like that is the most Chiefs defensive end in this draft. But at the same time, there were talks a week ago of maybe having to trade up for him, so like being patient and not taking him at 21, not wasting draft capital to get up and in front of a couple people and panicking. I felt like they had a good plan there, and if Karlaftis had come off the board, they would have had somebody else that they would have went after and had another plan. So I think that's a big difference from we can see kind of how Brett Veach has grown versus one of his first drafts where he did kind of panic, traded up, didn't get a guy he really, really wanted. So that's interesting to me to see that, he's able to be patient more, especially at some of those, like you said, these are positions that are not just needs, these are glaring needs. Is Mike Dana going to be your third down pass rusher kind of guy? Like, that's tough. That's a tough sell. And then obviously the Skye Moore pick was an interesting one. I know just watching Twitter, everyone's talking George Pickens. I'm just going, man, you guys like him too much. It's not going to happen. And I was just like, there's just kind of that feeling in the back of my head. I'm like, man, it just feels like Skye Moore makes too much sense. Both of them being there at 50, and then they move back. They're going, okay, they're playing the board. They're going to see what's left. They probably have them graded pretty similarly. And especially for right now, I think Skye Moore offers a higher floor, but also gives you something a little bit different than what you have in the wide receiver room right now. So, the guys that they went out and got, Juju is 6'1", MVS is I think 6'2" or 6'3", and then McColl's the speed guy, 5'11". Skye Moore is a technician at about 5'10". I think they're being a little generous, but he's also got baseball mitts for hands, and he catches everything. And he's gonna. He had one of the best 10-yard splits I think in the draft. So like his burst off the line, he's gonna beat whatever press or whatever coverage there is initially, those quick slants and stuff. That's gonna be money all day for him. So and then I thought Brian Cook was probably the pick that I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It was a good pick, good value for where he's at. Like I think they're probably a little higher on him than others. And he's got some room to grow. So I think this past year was his first year of actually like being a full-time starter. And then I have to confess that the Leo Chenal pick, I didn't do much work on Leo. I was like, that's not really a fit. They're probably gonna want somebody who's more of a cover guy. That I was like, I've heard some good things about him from people I liked. Goodness gracious, I watched him last night and watched more of him. And that dude is like terrifying. I tweeted out like the pros and cons of Leo Chenal is he plays aggressive, hits hard, all that stuff, and then the cons are he might at some point actually get arrested for murdering somebody and end up missing a couple of games because he is violent, and he said that in his press conference. So just being the most violent guy on the field, I was pretty excited to see that in that linebacking core. Now you have a young group who can run together and grow together. And that's the other point I'll make about this draft class. So far, the oldest player they've drafted is Brian Cook at 22 years and 6 months. Everybody else is a 21-year-old kid. They're going to be, a couple of them will turn 22 before the start of the season, but especially in a draft class with a lot of older players because of the COVID year, they've stuck to, really finding some guys who have room to grow and to develop and have some upside. And that's really exciting for me, just from a team building and philosophy. Yeah, from a philosophy approach.
Yeah, to add to the Chenal talk when it comes to, well, hopefully he doesn't commit murder, because if he does, then obviously that was a waste of a pick. But maybe it'll be complimentary to the Chiefs' defense moving forward when it comes to a big game or something. I'm just kidding. But no, Kent Lee Platt on Twitter at MathBomb, he said that Leo Chenal scored a 9.99 RAS out of a possible 10, which ranks him 3 out of 2,419 linebackers from 1987 to 2022. So the Chiefs are giving themselves a very efficient linebacker as well, with the versatility, being able to move from strong side to being a Mike linebacker in case of injury. So I'm not trying to put too much on him, because I don't know if he's going to end up ever becoming a true NFL linebacker, because these are guys that I think that Spags is going to have to experiment with and see what he can get out of them. Same with Brian Cook. But what I love about him is these guys are physical freaks, like you said, and like we've been saying leading into this segment. is that the Chiefs are going after guys that have extreme talent and trusting their coaching staffs to go and get the most out of these guys. Because after the first round, and Tom, you know this better than we do, after the first round, it is a crapshoot. Sure, the second round you can find tons of great players. We've seen that throughout history. Third round, same. But after that, man, it's flyer picks. And I think that's what the Chiefs are doing, is they're giving themselves the ability to go out and get the most out of guys they see have a ton of potential physically and young. Like you said, Brian Cook, the oldest player they got, was 22 years old. I was big on Arnold Ebiketie, I believe that's how you say his name, 23 years old already out of Penn State. So that was an older player I was looking at. Not a negative thing, but not something that you want to see maybe get a second contract to when he's 28, 29 years old. Guys like Karlaftis, as guys from like Charles Goldman was saying from Chiefs Wire, you're going to re-sign him at 26 years old if he's that guy that you want to keep. And that's incredible value, especially when you got him at 30. So I said before the show, and I've said on the show, that I wanted to see edge rush be the number one objective, defensive line to be the number one objective. The Chiefs clearly see safety and corner as the way to build their defense right now. I know you're a big Sauce Gardner guy, so you're clearly on that idea as well. How do you think moving forward the Chiefs are going to build the defense? Because I still think they're going to take more defensive players in this draft, and then probably add in Melvin Ingram or Jerry Hughes as training camp is coming about. How do you see the moving forward in this draft?
Man, it's almost hard to predict, but I agree. I think that they're trying to build out that secondary. They've got some contracts expiring next year. Juan Thornhill's a free agent. I think Rashad Fenton is also heading to free agency. So you've got to kind of think about the future a little bit there. There are some guys left. I'm a big Zion McCollum fan, and then Tariq Woolen is a guy who, like, if you take him, if you can keep him off the field as much as possible for a year, as counterintuitive as that sounds. He's so raw, but just athletically he's a unicorn in that sense. I expected him to be gone, but I think the NFL sees that he's not. He's probably not a guy who's ready to play day one. And in a class where there's a lot of kind of experienced, polished players, I think a lot of teams have gone that way. But Tariq Woolen is 6'4" and ran a 4.26. So when you're 6 inches taller than Tyreek Hill and almost as fast as Tyreek Hill, you should get drafted pretty early.
Yeah.
I think that there's a really good chance they grab another corner. There's a couple more guys out there that I like that I'm just kind of blanking on. It wouldn't surprise me also to see a defensive tackle added. I think that's going to be kind of a big piece of things. They brought back Derek Nottie. Chris Jones, another guy who I think next year's the last year of his current extension, and that's going to be a decision for the Chiefs, right? That's a player that at one point there were really strong rumors that they were going to trade. Chris Jones, and I would be surprised if they did that, just because I think they've learned really how to use him and embrace him. But that's another contract they have to work out. So getting some depth behind him, I think, is going to be pretty crucial for them. And there's a couple guys that I don't know if they fit that Chris Jones mold, but they fit in that slot maybe next to him. I think of Neil Farrell Jr. out of LSU is one of my personal favorites. Like, just a guy who, as to steal a line from the NFL guys, I think it was Chad Reuter who wrote him up. He said, his reputation is he makes it hard on every offensive lineman next to him, or just a guy who eats up space and engages blockers and has a high motor at like 6'2", 330 pounds. So I agree with you. I'm hoping they'll add especially some more depth across the defensive front there.
It looks like, according to reports, that Brett Veach is going to try to move up closer into the fourth round. I believe the fourth round's going right now as we're recording this. You got that fifth round pick, I believe, from the Patriots. It maybe stays at fifth in the fifth round because they didn't have a fifth round beforehand. Don't currently have a sixth, and I think they have 4 seventh round picks still. If the Chiefs are to take another 3 or 4 or 5 players in this draft, I've been preaching defense, and I think that's imperative because although Patrick Mahomes is always going to have this offense in the top 5, top 10 throughout his career as long as he is who he is, his Super Bowl success is going to hinge on how great his defense is and giving him an opportunity to not have to be Superman every single game, every single quarter, every single play of every single drive. He's got to have that support on the other side of the ball. But with saying that, I'm not opposed to the Chiefs on the back end of this draft adding a couple more players on the offensive side either. Primarily, maybe even running back. We're seeing a lot of running backs fall late into this draft. And I value running back a little bit more than others. I don't think it's extremely important. It's like the linebackers of the offensive line, of the offense rather. I still think that there's value there, and signing Rojo this offseason was nice. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire has still some promise and still some opportunity to be a really good player for this offense if he can stay healthy. But I'm not opposed to the Chiefs going and getting a running back later in the draft, adding another wide receiver later in this draft. If there was an offensive even tackle. I mean, right tackle right now, they have Andrew Wiley, injured Lucas Niang. They added Christian from the Texans last year. I would like to see them add some offensive line as well, but in your opinion, Tom, on the offensive side, where would you like to see them attack with the next 4 or 5 picks?
Yeah, so I just did some looking and just watching. You mentioned a running back. One of the guys I really like just went off the board to the Chargers, of course. In fact, the Raiders and Chargers just went back-to-back, running backs. The wide receiver position is a little tough right now. There's not a lot of guys that I'm going, oh yeah, he's going to be a really exciting guy to grab. Caleer Shakira out of Boise State is a guy who his flashes, his highlights are really nice. You just worry about his ability to be an actual NFL player. He's pretty versatile, but sometimes he just looks super weak and just sloppy, for lack of a better word. And I think that has more to do with him getting moved off his spots through his route than it does his actual ability as a player. But he's also somebody who, again, just from reports, really, really well liked kid, really, good team player, that kind of stuff. Isaiah Weston, that was the other guy I was just thinking of. I had to pull up the list out of Northern Iowa. If you're looking for a guy to develop, I think he had a really high RAS score. Bigger guy, ran a ridiculous 40 time if I remember right. I think he's 6'3", 6'3.5", ran a 4.42, 40 with a 40-inch vertical. So he's probably maybe a guy that if they hold on to that 5th round pick, I'd be surprised if he goes here in the 4th. I think there's more value at offensive line right now than there is wide receiver. So not to jump from that, but yeah, there's definitely some offensive line guys that I think I would prioritize over a receiver at this point. And the Chiefs do have bodies on their line. So the one guy, I'm going to slaughter his first name, Vidarian Lowe out of Illinois. I believe they had a top visit with him, or they visited him at the combine. The Chiefs did. He's an offensive tackle. He's an interesting guy. Probably he could come in and probably put up a fight for that right tackle spot, through camp, and just be a guy that they might give a shot. And then probably at the worst, I think year 2, you could count on him to be at least an average starter. He doesn't have the hugest, the highest ceiling, but he's just a solid, just one of those guys who just shows up, does his job, solid all the way around. You'd be lucky to have him because he's better than half the guys in the league, but you may always try to replace him because he's about that middle spot. So definitely some value still on the board though.
Well, moving out of the draft and actually looking at the free agency pool remaining, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, Tom, because I know we're here to talk draft, but there are some names out there. I've been talking Melvin Ingram, Jerry Hughes. There's other guys out there that could be a free agent acquisition for the Chiefs. Is there anybody that's on your board right now that you'd like to see the Chiefs add around training camp? Because we know these veterans, they don't want to go out there and bust their ass in that summer heat. They want to just get signed and go play football because they keep themselves in shape. But are there some names out there that you think the Chiefs can add, get a veteran minimum here or there, add them to the equation and make a difference on the defense or offense?
Yeah, and the Chiefs should have, a little bit of cap space. As my dog and cat make an appearance behind me. They wanted to be on the show, but
that's all good.
They should have some cap space to pick up some guys. I'm interested to see what players get released after the draft. There's always that, right before training camp or just random. It was a couple years ago when Tyrann Mathieu was a free agent. Before the season, and the Chiefs almost brought him in before the 2019. I think there's always one of those big, that's one of the biggest what ifs. Certainly in the Brett Veach area, but maybe in all of the Chiefs' history. If they had him on that 2019 team, and that defense was just a little bit better, So I think that Brett Veach is probably preparing for that. The guy I'm always like, why don't we just pick him up and see what we can get out of him is Jadeveon Clowney. No one's really excited about him anymore, but man, I still go back to those athletic tools. And if you just give him, this is your job as a pass rusher. This is your job, give him limited responsibilities and just let that athlete be on the field and make plays when he needs to make plays. Like, to me, that's where, especially as a rotational guy, which I think he sees himself as a starter and wants to be paid like a starter, so maybe there's a disconnect there. But, I mean, at this point in the season, if you've got the money, a one-year deal is, you throw it at him and you go, all right, well, we'll see however it works, we'll make it work. But that's always the guy that I'm interested in. But I think that there'll be some value guys who end up hitting the market, especially, hopefully, we'll see if the defensive line players end up out there, but maybe even some wide receivers who end up on the trade market. We see everyone wants to get paid. The Chiefs have been, in talks. I don't know if you guys have seen that Hollywood Brown said that the Chiefs were one of the teams that had tried to trade for him. So I would be surprised if the Chiefs were completely out of the wide receiver conversation, just because the guys they have right now are on the cheaper one-year deals, and I think they still would feel comfortable if they had an actual established kind of superstar in that room, and they don't really have that right now. So we'll see how that plays out. But I can't. Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney is the name I'll throw out there. I am excited to see what guys become available after the draft and as we get closer to training camp.
When it comes to the current Chiefs players, some of the veterans, there's a lot of prove-it deals on this roster. We know that Frank Clark essentially on a one-year deal, a prove-it deal. Chris Jones essentially has 1 year left. The Chiefs can get out of that contract after this season and save a lot of money. We're looking at Juan Thornhill, Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, even Justin Reed and MVS, who have technically longer-term deals. The Chiefs can get out of those pretty early. So there's a lot of veteran players on this team that not only are seeing these young, talented guys across the board coming in and could potentially replace them or outplay them or get more snaps out of them than them. I still feel that there's a great motivating factor here for these guys to play at their best, because at worst, they're playing somewhere else and maybe get themselves a contract somewhere else. That excites me, Tom. That's something I really like, and I think every team should have that motivation to have one-year deals. Because in the NBA, players love having one-year deals because it gives them mobility. In the NFL, you want to have long-term deals. You want to be able to say, I got guaranteed dollars. This team's got to pay for you for the next 3 to 5 years. The Chiefs don't have a lot of guys like that outside of Patrick Mahomes and even Travis Kelce. So I really like what I'm seeing, but of all these one-year deal players, prove-it deal guys, what are you expecting from them? In particular, guys like Mecole Hardman, Frank Clark, Chris Jones, Juan Thornhill, Juju. What are you expecting from these guys?
Yeah. I especially love the way the wide receiver room is set up, because essentially you have those three guys on one-year deals, Mecole, Juju, and MVS, and you're kind of just saying, one of you is going to have to stick. And so there's kind of that, internal competition. At least you'd hope that that's what you're breeding, right? Like, I don't think this wide receiver room is, how they want it to look long term in Kansas City. I think that they have different, ideas and different plans for it. And sorry, one of my monitors just died. It's interesting. So yeah, I think that they've got that, that idea of hey, you've got to compete. You've got to earn your spot here. And so it's, to me personally, I look at it a lot as Mecole versus MVS, right? Those are two kind of similar, players in terms of stylistically speedy, deep threats. And I think that is, I think Mecole's the guy that they're looking going, dude, we were going to hand you a bigger role years ago when we brought you in. It worked out differently. And I just it's one of those situations where somebody has to step up so they can fill up that room. And then same thing on defense. Juan Thornhill's a guy who just hasn't looked the same since that injury. I've been, my co-hosts always give me grief because I'm a little lower on Thornhill than I think some others are. He's that guy who just he just as much as maybe Dan Sorensen, he's all right, he's half a step behind, which great effort, But if you're half a step behind, you're still half a step behind. You're still behind. I guess maybe Dan Thornton was like 2 or 3 or 4 or 8 steps behind sometimes. But it's like just because you lose by a little doesn't mean you're losing. It's better than losing by a lot in that sense, especially in the NFL. And I think of a couple of specific plays with Juan, who I'm just like, you're almost there. And it's not that he's not the athlete. Some of it has to do with his processing speed. But it's just one of those. There's a lot of players in this team who have to kind of earn their keep as things are getting turned over and as the roster changes. So,
any concerns from you about an Orlando Brown Jr. contract extension happening this offseason, because he doesn't have any representation? He is doing his own agency work, if you will. We haven't heard anything. I'm optimistic. I think that based on the draft alone, the fact that the Chiefs didn't take a tackle early, they didn't really do anything this offseason to bolster their offensive line because they're pretty confident. And obviously Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, they believe in Andrew Wiley as a right tackle replacement for now when Lucas Niang gets healthy, if he does get healthy. But there is something to be said about the fact that we don't see any traction yet. I do expect it's going to happen in June, July, when training camp really starts to get closer and closer. What are your thoughts right now as far as Orlando Brown Jr.?
I think he'll be a Chief. I think that they've made that pretty clear. It always makes me nervous when players are representing themselves, just because sometimes they make boneheaded decisions. But I think we've seen more often than not that those have been, the players maybe not getting as much money as they could have in the past, So I think they're going to work with him. They may drag out for a little bit. They may wait for him to actually, decide to hire an agent. So we'll see how it all goes. But I have no doubts that Orlando Brown is going to be a Chief, long term.
Yeah. Well, Tom, look, man, we appreciate all the time you give us. And you're one of those people out there, I said before the show, I said during the show, there's a lot of guys out there that like to know, to pretend like they know what's going on in the draft. But you're one of those guys, man, and you actually nailed it if you think about it, because you said that the Chiefs should have went after Sauce Gardner. Obviously, he was a top 4 pick, so the Chiefs weren't realistically going to get him. But it's the position, and it's knowing that the defense needed to be upgraded. And you were one of those guys that are out there preaching cornerback. You preach that the defense needs to be where the Chiefs go and upgrade, and that's exactly what happened. And that is why you're here with us today, my man, because you're a dude that I respect and trust when it comes to the knowledge of how to build this team. And we appreciate what you do over at the Kingdom Says podcast. And more than anything, man, we appreciate your time and coming up here and dropping knowledge. And honestly, more than even that, you let us see your cat and dog. That's fucking awesome, dude. We appreciate that.
Yeah, so looks like my dog made a little escape, and my little brother just went to round them up. So you got to see that. You got the bonus content of all that happening in the background.
We got the whole Arrowhead Tom experience.
Uncut. We're over here just watching the draft, hanging out, and the cat and dog are here. So my little brother's been tasked with keeping them under control, and he's going to get a draft grade. He's going to get one of those mean draft day grades. But no, thanks for having me, guys. It's always a treat, and I've already started on some 2023 guys, so when you're ready to talk the 2023 draft, you know where to find me.
Let's go.
And yeah.
That's when you know what's inside you. That's when you know it's built inside you to do this. When you're already looking at next year's draft. That's amazing, man.
Weeks ago, I was like, all right, 2022 is boring. Let's keep moving.
That's so this year,
Yeah, that's so this year. We'll see what happens.
That is Arrowhead Tom. Hey, KC native now, by the way. He's now part of the KC family.
Welcome.
We still haven't hung you out yet. I don't know what's up with that, bro. I mean, I guess he's too cool for us, As Kingdom Says, guys.
That's definitely our brand. Too cool for other people.
Dude, we got enough of that out here, okay? We don't need you bringing that energy out here. We want friends, we want unison.
No, anytime, man. Anytime. You've got my number. Just holler or just at me on Twitter. I'll respond on that. You guys know I spend too much time on that thing. So
hell yeah, you and me both.
Yeah.
Well, that's Arrowhead Tom, Kingdom Says podcast. Go give them a follow, guys. They know what they're talking about. They're awesome dudes. They're down to earth, and they're in KC, baby. So, Tom, thank you so much again, brother. Give them a follow, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, give it up for our guy Tom, man. That was awesome, dude. I really appreciate Tom, man, so much today, man. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. I feel like we can just keep going on and on, and I know the Chiefs are about they're about 5 or 6 picks away, from making a selection, so I'm really excited about that. I think, am I hearing myself still? Yeah, okay, we're good.
It was on the headset.
Okay. I was like, I know I don't got voices in my own head, and it's my own voice. Nah, but Tom made some really good points, man. I like where Tom comes from on some of these things. He brings reality to the situation because Chiefs make a selection. We're automatically assuming the best of these players, or if you're on the negative side, you're just assuming the worst. Guys like Tom, Jay Binkley, people like that, they always bring that semblance, the balance to the equation where we need that. And I think that Tom made some really good valid points about McDuffie and what Karlaftis can bring, because those are the two guys we're looking at the closest, because those are the first round picks. But after he's talking about when he was looking at Brian Jones, when he was looking at Leo Chenal, when he was looking at these other guys, I'm sorry, Brian Cook, I said Brian Jones. Brian Cook, when he's looking at Leo Chenal, he didn't really do a lot of film study on these guys because he didn't really know those were going to be guys the Chiefs are looking at. And then he sees them and he goes, oh, I kind of see where they were coming from. I kind of understand now what they were looking at, and they were high on these guys for this particular reason. And I think that should excite Chiefs fans, because we think we have such an idea of what the Chiefs are looking at, and then we see them take a guy that we weren't expecting in a position we weren't expecting, and then it starts to click. Oh, this is what the Chiefs are doing in this draft. Oh, this is why they decided to be conservative in free agency, because all these guys on the draft board, they thought that other teams are going to undervalue them, and if they did overvalue them, we're just going to snip up and, like Trevor said, snipe them before you guys get an opportunity to grab them. So I really love the mentality the Chiefs are going with. I literally have no idea what they're going to do in the fourth round. I have no idea if they're going to stay in the fifth.
And I will say the running backs and tight ends have been the trend in this round so far. There's been 4 of each gone.
They fell back so far. Yeah. For the first time in NFL history, no running back or tight end was taken in the first round. Yeah. That's never happened
They're
before.
Going like crazy right now, which kind of sets up the Chiefs to grab another nice defensive player here in the fourth round.
Tom was saying, defensive tackle. I wanted to see the Chiefs get a defensive tackle. I have a draft
and a tackle, yep.
So that'd be a really good opportunity, man. But yeah, like I said, thanks to Tom. Go follow them, guys. Kingdom Says Podcast. They put out great content. Very knowledgeable guys. Him and Kyle, Garrett, those dudes, man, they know what they're talking about. Shit, you think we do, man. You go follow those guys. You'll have yourself a great experience. That's why we like to have them as friends and people to follow. So go ahead and do that, guys. But in the meantime, Eddie, let's get to your Eddie Hour, man. Let's get some questions. I know Eddie's got some out of the NFL realm questions, as he always does. What's going on, man?
Trying to, I guess. But I want to stick in the NFL just because it's draft. Obviously, there's more than just the Chiefs drafting, obviously, this weekend. So, as we've seen with the Seahawks drafting, they truly believe in Drew Lock. Is this a good move from the Seahawks, or should they have draft, or should they draft a QB, or have drafted a QB?
Well, at this point, I mean, this was one of the poorest quarterback draft classes in a long time. In fact, the first quarterback to go was Kenny Pickett at 20. That was the longest they had gone in the draft of taking a quarterback in the first 20 selections since 1997.
Yeah.
So that hasn't happened in a very long time. So that tells you how poor this draft class is. I was surprised that Malik Willis didn't go a little sooner, but I understood why people were waiting, just to kind of see like where the draft fell, and obviously the value of him was dropping, so teams could look at one of these guys as a flyer. Dinner was one of those, Dinar, whatever his last name is, went a little later as well. I don't think it's so much that the Seahawks believe in Drew Lock. I think it's the fact that they knew they were out of the Russell Wilson business and they had to get what was best, and they knew that they can get him as a trade asset. The thing about Drew Lock is he's got talent. And he can go out there and make a couple big throws like a Tyler Lockett or a DK Metcalf, because he's got hella receivers out there. Plus Noah Fant joins him from Denver, so he's got plenty of weapons on the offensive side. I don't think it's so much, though, that Seattle wants him to be their long-term answer. I think that they didn't really have another choice, because outside of maybe trading for a Baker Mayfield, which for some damn reason the Browns are holding on to him, thinking they're going to get draft value out of Baker Mayfield, which clearly is not going to happen, because if it was, it would have already happened.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks are just realizing, like, hey, this is just one of those years where we just kind of have to tough through it, hope for the best. Maybe Drew Lock does become something out here. Am I expecting that? No, I'm not expecting that. But to be honest with you guys, I think Drew Lock's in a better situation than he was with Denver. Because although Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick and Jerry Jeudy and those guys are talented assets, I think we all would agree that he went to a better situation with wide receiver alone. With Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf plus Noah Fant as his tight end, I think he's in a better situation for an opportunity to prove himself. And they did re-sign Geno Smith as his backup quarterback. And that's a guy I think they do like. Yeah. I think Geno Smith is somebody they do believe in, and Geno's only 30 years old. So maybe Geno Smith ends up winning the job. There's no guarantee Drew Lock is even their starting quarterback. Is he more talented than Geno? Maybe. But I think that right now they're looking at their quarterback position as just a salvageable situation until next year's draft or a quarterback they can maybe sign next year. Who's to say that maybe they can figure out a way to trade within their own division and get a Jimmy Garoppolo? There's opportunities out there. None of them are great. That's why I think they're sticking to who they have.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing about Geno Smith. I don't think there's any promise that this job is locked up by lock. You know what I mean? I think there's definitely a QB competition there. I think Geno played fairly well in the spot fill he did for Russ when he was hurt. So, I don't know. I don't think this is a good quarterback position for the Seattle Seahawks either way. Both these guys are mistake-prone guys. So I think they could go with the trusted veteran and Geno Smith. I thought they should have taken a chance on Malik Willis. I thought that would be a good move for them to get a mobile guy that has a cannon for an arm with those two fast, deep threat receivers in Lockett and DK. So I figured that would be a good idea to maybe grab him and to see what he's about. I like him. I thought he was the best quarterback in this draft personally. Not a lot of talent in this draft, but I thought Malik Willis was a good prospect, good guy that could come in here and be at least a playmaker. He's going to make mistakes, obviously. His decision-making isn't the best at all times, but he's got a cannon. He's very mobile, will extend plays and make plays, so I figured that would be an exciting guy to go nab in this draft, and he sat late. So they could have got him, but no. I don't know what the plan is. Honestly, I don't really care. I'm more worried about Russell Wilson in our division at this point now. He's with him over here, but I mean, for the fans over there, I would not be excited about that quarterback situation at all.
Nice. Looks like the Green Bay Packers took a wide receiver. Holy shit.
Romeo Daubs.
Romeo Daubs.
Well, didn't they took a wide receiver last night too?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've gotten a couple guys, and the funny thing is they just refused to take a wide receiver in the first round.
Yeah.
5 running backs now gone. Tennessee took another running back.
Okay.
They're going, man.
They are going.
Oof.
We're up in 2 picks.
All right, next question. This is more on the Eagles now. We obviously seen the Eagles, the kind of trades that they made, the picks that they've made. Now my question is, are the Eagles a QB away from actually competing or contending, or is Jalen Hurts the answer?
I think it's a little bit in between because I think that the Jalen Hurts has an opportunity here to really prove himself. And Jalen Hurts, unlike Drew Lock, has already shown that he has some of that.
Upside, for sure.
Yeah, he's an insane athlete, first of all. The dude is incredibly mobile. He's a big-bodied quarterback. He's not small by any means.
He's just not accurate.
6'2", 6'3", 230-pound quarterback. That's a big dude.
Run like a running back.
Yeah, the problem, like Trevor just said, though, is the fact that he deals with inaccuracy. Now, again, I think that some of that can be fixed. The thing that Jalen Hurts works with or struggles with are things that you can fix. You can work on accuracy. That is something you can get better at. I mean, you saw guys like Drew Brees come in the league, completing 59% of his passes with the Chargers, and then ends up becoming the most accurate quarterback of all time. Josh Allen, same exact thing.
He was offseason. He was
within 1 year.
Difference.
And Jalen Hurts, the type of dude who works his ass off. He's on the grind constantly. And now that you add an A.J. Brown, a guy he's been friends with, a teammate, yes. Yep. All of a sudden, you have yourself a top-tier possessions receiver in A.J. Brown, plus the talents of Devontae Smith. All of a sudden, that offense becomes that much more spectacular. And I say that intentionally because they're the type of offense that can be spectacular. But can they do the gritty things? Can they, roll out a 12 to 15 play drive? That's debatable because I don't know if they have those pieces yet. But could they be a fun, high-octane offense? Yeah, I do. So I think that it's going to come down to the Eagles. I think the Eagles are basically presenting Jalen Hurts an opportunity to prove what he is because they did take him with a first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. So they do believe in him in a sense. And Nick Sirianni has been given enough leeway to experiment, if you will. And plus, Jalen Hurts benefited off the fact that this is again, weak quarterback draft. So he had the advantages here. He's got an opportunity. He capitalizes. He is the Eagles quarterback for the foreseeable future. But I don't think they've ruled out the opportunity to replace him or go out there and get another guy that can be better because, as we know, the Eagles were in the mix for a Deshaun Watson. That was a guy they were looking at and they were looking to trade for. That didn't happen, so they're sticking with what they know and who they have. And I think Jalen Hurts has a golden opportunity to make himself in like a long-term quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I do want to say, just a side note, 2 punters have been taken in the 4th round. Anyways,
by the Ravens.
Yeah, and the Buccaneers. 2 4th-round punters. No, so I actually like Jalen Hurts a lot. I like he's as far as I'm a big fantasy guy. So from fantasy, he's a very fun guy to have on your team just because of his running abilities and things like that. But in real life football, he's got a lot of mistakes. He's prone to mistakes, I should say. He sometimes has that Lamar Jackson. Granted, he's not as good as a runner as Lamar Jackson, but he's right up there next to him, probably second to Lamar Jackson as far as running quarterbacks go. He's incredible, but sometimes he picks the wrong time to run, runs into a defensive player, loses the ball, or tries to do the Jameis Winston and throw the ball as he's falling down. He's got poor decision making sometimes, and he's just too inaccurate right now to be considered a top tier or even a second, third tier quarterback in this league. But I will say that the addition of A.J. Brown is huge for this offense. Figuratively and literally, A.J. Brown's a force. He's going to make every single team he goes to better. He's gonna create a comfort zone for any quarterback he plays for because he's that much of an. Look what he's done with Tannehill so far. Granted, Tannehill is a good quarterback and is a fairly accurate quarterback, but he's not that great, if we're all being honest. He's very mistake prone as well. When he showed his ass last postseason. I think threw 4 picks in that game. He's atrocious in a lot of decision making as well. And I think Jalen Hurts is better than Tannehill in my mind. I think he's got way better chops athletically. So you couple that with the athletic gifted guy that is A.J. Brown, an absolute force that DBs just do not want to see. I think that's going to open up a lot for this offense. And this still have a good O-line they're working on, getting better and better. And you protect Jalen Hurts, you give him time to make plays. Him and A.J. Brown are going to be fun to watch, man.
Okay, next question. Obviously, we've seen was it Game 6 between the 76ers and who they played?
The Raptors.
Obviously, the biggest talking point now is Joel Embiid is out indefinitely due to a orbital fracture. What does this mean for the 76ers, especially going into the conference semifinals?
That means that they're done. If Joel Embiid can't play, they have 0% chance of winning. Usually, when you have a team that has 2 guys that have at least at one point in their careers been superstars, and one goes down, you think, oh, well, the other guy can elevate for at least a series. James Harden's not that guy anymore. James Harden's on the steady decline. Yeah. He is nowhere near what he once was, even just 2-3 years ago. And he's not even old. James Harden's 33 years old. He should have another 3 or 4 years of really good basketball left, especially in today's medical advances and technology and things, the way that guys can prolong their primes. James Harden's a party animal.
Especially him being a shooter ball handler. Yeah. Those guys usually last long.
Well, and James Harden, he's a party animal. He's in the clubs all the time. He doesn't really focus on his physical health. We've seen that throughout the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. He gets real big during the season, but after the season, during the season.
Tightens up during the postseason.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Sixers have 0 chance. I like Maxey a lot. I think he could be a potential star in this league. He probably already is, and he's going to get himself a max deal. But Joel Embiid is the heart and center of that team. If they don't have a healthy Joel Embiid, or at least a guy healthy enough to play, they have a 0% chance, because now the Eastern Conference has the more better teams than the Western Conference does.
Who would they play in the next round?
The Bucks or the Celtics. Bucks or Celtics.
No, Bucks versus Celtics, and then 76ers versus...
Oh, I apologize. I meant like the Eastern Conference. My bad. Eastern Conference Finals. They would face the...
I'm not even sure who they would face right now, because they just beat the Raptors in that series.
So I know the Bucks are the Bucks versus Celtics, and it's the 76ers versus Miami.
There we go, Miami. Yeah, I wouldn't pick. Yeah, Miami.
They're banged up too, though. Yeah, that's a banged up team too, though. But I mean, that's a tough defensive team.
But it's
they wouldn't be able to beat Miami in that series without Joel. I don't think they beat anybody left in the East without Joel. I mean, that's just. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll give my take, guys. I just think that they think they're 100% dead in the water if Joel can't go, and it's looking like he's gonna be. It's weeks. I mean, he broke a bone in his face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's an orbital bone. That's the bone that's the structure of your eye. You know what I mean? That's not something you can just play around with. You can lose your eye if you damage it further. So that's going to take weeks for him just to even heal up from that.
Maybe months.
It sucks, man. It really, really sucks to see that.
Look at, who was it? The guy that Canelo fought.
Yeah. He could be done. I mean, he took a massive elbow from what's his name? So
he could potentially lose eyesight from that eye.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah. All right, next question. Should Mike Trout leave the Angels if he wants to compete for a World Series?
Yeah, but he won't. That's the problem with Mike Trout, is he's one of those guys. I often look at Mike Trout in the same light as like a Damian Lillard. They refuse to back off of this idea that you need to be loyal to a franchise. I'm not going to go on a tirade here, But the biggest mistake that pro athletes make is a mentality that you need to be loyal to a franchise. Go ahead.
We took a corner, Joshua Williams from Fayetteville State.
Okay, yeah. If you can, look into him real quick, because I have no idea who that is. But I can. Actually, I think Tom was actually just texting me. He said, yeah, he called that. Watch for Joshua Williams from Fayetteville at 135. Small schools corner who Chiefs had in for a visit. There we go. So this is a guy that the Chiefs obviously liked.
Nice.
So just to say this,
Another corner.
Just to say this real quick, and then we can actually dive into that real quick about this guy. The biggest mistake that pro athletes make is being loyal to a franchise, because franchises are only going to do what's best for them. Sure, you can make tons of money playing for a particular team. That franchise can love you, the fans can love you, all those things. But the moment you're no longer good for business or as great as you once were, they'll get rid of you.
Yeah.
And Mike Trout is the type of guy that is a transcendent talent and is being wasted with the Anaheim Angels, or the Los Angeles of Anaheim Angels. And they're not complaining because they're the ones reaping all the benefits, while Mike Trout doesn't. And even his contract was lower than what he should have gotten. Bryce Harper got a $300 million contract, or $300+ million contract. Mike Trout got a little over $150. How the hell is that possible? He is significantly better than Bryce Harper. But Bryce Harper does something that Mike Trout doesn't. He's not afraid to move on. Mm-hmm. And he moved on from the Washington Nationals and went to the Phillies and got paid and is in a better situation. Even though the Nationals won the World Series, the Phillies are a better organization on a normal basis. And now that Mike Trout is looking at a situation where he's going nowhere fast, even with Shohei Ohtani next to him, it's just a really sad situation to see, man. But I don't feel bad for him in the same breath, because he's choosing to do this. Mike Trout could easily request a trade. Mike Trout could have easily not signed that contract and became a free agent and signed with the Yankees, Red Sox, Phillies, any of these other teams. Didn't do it. So this is on Mike Trout, man, at this point. It wasn't his fault he got drafted to the Angels, but it is his fault that in his mid to late 20s decided to hitch his wagon to the Angels. He's just one of those guys, man, and that's why you'll probably never see Mike Trout as a star player win a World Series.
Yeah, Mike Trout, and similar to Damian Lillard, is one of those guys that is one of the biggest names in the sport, maybe arguably the biggest name in the sport that he plays in. Even more than a Damian Lillard would. His name carries more weight than even a Damian Lillard probably would within his respected sport. Yeah, I mean, it's his choice. I mean, and I respect it. I don't think it's the smartest move. I mean, I think you want to do what's best for you. But I mean, it depends on what motivates these individuals. You know, is it loyalty? Is it being that guy? Is it, you know, I mean, who knows? It's obviously not true success in the game, because if you want to have true success in the game, you'd want to do and be a little selfish and go find a, you know, a place where it's possibly the grass is greener on the other side. So if I was him, I would probably want to go find success elsewhere, just because this franchise hasn't proven anything to you that they want to, you know, surround you with more talent and be a team that's, you know, up there in the rankings of being regarded as a true contender. It's just not in the book for him right now. I mean, it could happen in the next few years. Who knows? They draft a couple guys and figure out, make some moves to, you know, whatever. I just don't see it happening. I just don't. I think he's just too loyal to a fault, just similar to Damian Lillard. They've tried numerous different ways. He's going to have his numbers. He's going to go down as one of the greatest at his position ever. And one of the few real marketable guys in this league, but it's just hard to market it when you're in a team that's just not marketable, period. So, and that's saying a lot too. That's a, you know, California-based team, you know, so for you to be that bad and no one wants to, you know, you're not attracting talent to a California-based team, it just says a lot about that franchise you're playing for. So he's the only one really putting asses in those seats. So it's really up to him, man. It's really his choice. If he has the namesake and the power to kind of go wherever he wanted to, if he really wanted to push the envelope, but he's remained stagnant where he's at. So I mean, it is what it is, man.
So I'm bringing a little bit more on Joshua Williams.
Yeah.
He's the first NCAA D2 player to be drafted so far this draft, obviously. Mm-hmm. So the Chiefs decided to go D2. And then the Chiefs' relative athletic score is a 9.43 out of 10.
He's 6'3", 195.
Yeah. Tom texted me, said he's a big, feisty corner that needs to learn a little bit more about the game, but he said he's extremely talented. He's great on the inside as well, so that's a guy that the Chiefs obviously want to mold into becoming a cornerback for them, a rotational cornerback, and that's the best thing about this.
Going to compete with Rashad Fenton, probably.
This falls right into the brand of what the Brett Veach had in plan for this draft, is to get as many defenders, primarily in the cornerback secondary side, and let Spags turn these guys into what he wants them to become.
Hey,
He gives
6'3",
them big
almost 6'4", runs a 4'5".
6'3" corner, man.
Yeah, so and the strengths are exceptional size, length, and top end speed. Plays with impressive body composure and control. Back pedal is low and smooth. Plays fast, agile with feet, short spaces, above average recovery. You can't ask for much more than a late fourth round pick.
They're saying he's
compete.
a good development pick for the Chiefs.
Could become a starter, yeah. A solid backup that has the possibility of becoming a starter.
Again, with the math bomb, I just saw the tweet. Garrett Williams, actually from Kingdom Says Podcast, retweeted it. He said that Joshua, this is from Kent Lee Plant. Joshua Williams was drafted in the 135th pick of the round 4 of the 2022 class. He scored a 9.43 RAS out of a possible 10. This ranks him 115th from 2001, from 1987 to 2022. Out of 2001 players, he ranked 115th from 1987 to current. So we're looking at a lot of talent.
Stockpiling that.
Again, raw talent. Let's keep it real. I'm not sitting here saying this is the next Ty Law here. No. I'm saying that these are guys that the Chiefs are giving Spags to develop into. Yeah. So this is great, man. I'm really liking these picks.
All right, so next question. So I know it's way too early in the season, but the Mets could become trouble for the Dodgers this season.
Sure.
If they want to get to the World Series, thoughts?
The Mets are a team that are a boom or bust team to me because they're relying on guys that are both injury prone and old. So Max Scherzer is right now the ace of their rotation. Max Scherzer is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. But Max Scherzer is going to be 38 years old. Is his arm going to be able to hold up this year? Now, he's an ultimate competitor, and he takes care of his body very well. So more than likely, yes. Because even if you look at Justin Verlander, who's just as old, I think maybe even older than Max Scherzer, he's still throwing in the mid-90s. And he's pitching incredibly. So Max Scherzer could very well do that. But then Jake DeGrom, who's probably the best pitcher in baseball, is still dealing with injuries since last season. And when you saw Jake DeGrom last season, he looked like Zach Greinke in 2009. Just unhittable. You could not hit him, and he's striking out everybody with 3-4 different pitches, which is absurd. So, yes, the Mets could be that problem, but could is the key here. Because guys like Pete Alonso a lot of times loses his focus and just gets angry and wants to fight all the time. Great player, but the dude is always, he's talking about, I could put anybody in the hospital if I want to. And so it's like, bro, you gotta just... Arenado was mad because the St. Louis Cardinals, then they kept throwing at each other. There's new baseballs they don't like. I get it. But Pete Alonso's got to have more composure than that as a leader of that ball club, dude. So I like the Mets. I had them in the NLCS this year just based upon pitching, but I still need to see them get through the regular season healthy. Otherwise, they're doomed, man.
Yeah, I mean, and plus it's extremely early, and it's baseball. It's like a 3-year season every year. So it's extremely early to maybe making these predictions on who's a threat to who. Things change, people get hurt, rotations change, people lose their momentum. Bats start going down. We've seen so many good teams that we thought were going to be the team, squander and fall, and underdogs are always there every year in baseball. So I'm not going to sit here and try to make that prediction, but I mean they're definitely talent-wise, pitching especially. Their bullpen is nice. I mean they have what it takes to be that team, but this is baseball is a long, grueling season, and things always change. So I'm really just taking the wait and see approach before I try to make that prediction. But they, as of right now, the way it looks, yes, optically, yes, they are definitely a threat for sure.
All right. So we saw the Warriors defeat the Nuggets 4-1. Did you guys expect that?
I called.
Nope.
That.
I picked the Nuggets.
So I want to get your thoughts on that.
No, let's start with Trevor because he got it right.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, man. Just Steph was making the shots when needed. The Nuggets just simply are not deep enough. Clay was starting to come alive finally towards the end. Draymond was that anchor for them again. Draymond was when he was available, was very much Draymond. He was playing great defense on Jokic. He was making Jokic work. I mean, Jokic's numbers were insane in the series, though. I mean, my God, the dude was balling. Their team just wasn't enough. Aaron Gordon was becoming very aggressive and was becoming a really good player for them in this series. I just think the overall coaching experience, the experience from the players and the Warriors, them being here so many times, this was just a series that I just did not see the Nuggets surviving, in my opinion. I don't think they had the firepower to keep up with what the Warriors were doing offensively. I just think they're. I mean, I know Jokic is like such a big name right now, and he's the previous MVP, and he's fun to watch. But he did his thing. There's just only so much. It felt similar to like a LeBron-led team where LeBron's numbers and his PER and everything, all the analytical stuff side of everything, it was just out the roof.
Yeah.
But there just wasn't enough. Jokic, this Nuggets team just isn't good enough to me. They still need to get Jamal Murray back in the rotation. He's just got to stay healthy. If he was in this series, I think it would have been a little bit different with his ability to play great defense on Steph and his ability to score at will against Steph would have been fun to watch. But I think missing that kind of that guard that's a premier scorer and a really good perimeter defender against Steph Curry to kind of balance that out would have been a big help and a boost for this team. It kind of could have went another way if he was available, but no, I just didn't think they had the guards to compete with the Warriors guards, and then Klay Thompson actually getting going, and his shooting was getting going. So I think there was just too much experience and too much shooting prowess for the Warriors on their side of things too. And it wasn't really even. There were some competitive games, but I think everyone knew watching these games that the Warriors were going to pull them out, and they did. The Nuggets barely squeezed that one win out. So
I'm going to admit that I was 100% wrong about the Warriors this year, but the reason why, and I'm going to defend myself a little bit, nobody saw Jordan Poole becoming this guy.
Yeah, man.
Jordan Poole
should have been the most improved player of the year.
Unreal. Yeah, how the hell did John Morant, who won Rookie of the Year last year, become most improved player?
Yeah. Filling Klay Thompson's shoes all year. He's been balling out. One of the best shooters in his position.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like winning the Silver Slugger Award and becoming the most outstanding hitter the next year. It's like, wait, what? This guy won Silver Slugger last year.
That's weird.
Anyway, Jordan Poole's the reason why they beat the Nuggets. Not Steph Curry, not Klay Thompson, not Draymond Green, because we know what those guys are. And without Jordan Poole, they're not a good enough team. Mm-hmm. The Nuggets would have won the series. The X Factor, something I love that Shaq always says, and it's 100% true, and I never thought about it until he started saying it. It isn't the superstars that win championships, it's the others. Look at the Celtics in 08. Everyone thought, it's KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. No, it was Rondo. James Posey and Rajon Rondo that won that series. Perk won that. Kendrick Perkins won that series.
Huge, yeah.
Those guys are the ones that made those big plays. Robert Horry with the Lakers hit the big shot.
With the Spurs too.
Spurs, same thing. Yeah. Rockets, even in his early years, right?
Yep.
And even in that one, Kenny the Jet Smith was a big factor in the mid '90s for the Rockets.
Was it Fisher?
Yes, Derek Fisher with the Lakers. Yes, Steve Kerr,
like
John Paxson, Dennis Rodman making the clutch rebounds. Scottie Pippen, who's a superstar, but not in the early '90s,
Ray Allen
was making big defensive stops.
Yeah.
Yes, Ray Allen with the Heat.
Yep.
I can make example after example after example. Dennis Johnson with the Celtics back in the '80s. These are the guys that win these titles because the superstars are going to get you there. Same like I say about Patrick Mahomes. He's going to get you the AFC Championship. He's going to get you to the Super Bowl, but they need these role players, these defensive players to make big plays. Yep. Like, look, okay, let's say Tom Brady, that bullshit D4 dumbass offsides, right? Let's say that doesn't happen. You know who makes the game-winning play? Charvarius Ward on an interception. A guy the Chiefs drafted or traded a backup center for in 2018. Like, think about that, man. An undrafted rookie would have been the guy that got the Chiefs to the Super Bowl for the first time in 50 years.
Yep.
So it's the others. So Jordan Poole is the others. And Jordan Poole might be the reason why the Warriors win a fucking title this year, because this team with him is next level. Because you have Andrew Wiggins, who we didn't even mention, a solid perimeter defender who can score 25 a night. Plus all these other guys, these three Hall of Fame players with Jordan Poole. Yeah, and with Steve Kerr, one of the five best coaches in basketball. It's unbelievable what this Warriors team is doing. I was so wrong, but I love that I was wrong, because guys like Jordan Poole, seeing a legacy emerge is something I love in sports, man. And he's building a legacy. He's about to get himself paid, and I love it, and it's great.
He's been so good, they could move off Klay.
And by the way, yes, that's true. But real quick, Arrowhead Live, guy that we trust big time, said that Joshua Williams was PFF's 117th overall prospect, and the Chiefs got him at 135. So the Chiefs got him 18 spots better than what he was established to be, or 18 spots behind what he was established to be.
A good, competitive guy that's going to go out there and compete at camp, and maybe push Baker and Rashad Fenton for their jobs. For sure, I like that.
And the new corner.
Well, yeah, even McDuffie, but yeah, he's.
McDuffie, because I mean they're both rookies. They're both going to compete.
McDuffie, I think McDuffie's a day one though. I think McDuffie's going to come in and be a day one starter. I think he's got.
Yeah,
that.
But I mean, like I'm saying, like
it's going to create
you got that pressure,
depth, and competition, man.
Yeah, that's what
corners.
I'm saying. Competition. That's what we
need. Lacked that last year majorly. So this is
All right, last question. I saved the best one for last. Yesterday it was announced that Trevor Bauer has been given a 2-year suspension by MLB. What are your thoughts?
I got a lot of them. Some unpopular, some cancelable, and some that I feel are pretty safe. So I'm going to say them all. Starting with the safe. Trevor Bauer is a representation, an example that the MLB is making out of players that have sexual assault, sexual allegations, sexual misconduct, all those things attached to them. MLB is basically telling them that they're not playing games with these guys. So much so that you're not going to play games for 2 years.
Make an example out of them.
Make an example out of them. And let me clear the air here, and I'm going to say it as bold as as clear as I can. If Trevor Bauer actually sexually assaulted a woman, he deserves every bit of this, and quite frankly, should have everything thrown in.
Should never play again.
Should never play again. Should go to prison. Should serve every second that he deserves to give. You should never ever assault somebody. That's pretty fucking obvious.
Woman, that's the lowest of low.
Exactly. When you're a grown man out here sexually assaulting women, you're a piece of shit, and you should serve every amount of jail time that you get. The problem with this situation, though, is the fact that all charges were dropped on Trevor Bauer. All those allegations, all that stuff. He's not serving any jail time. He's not been indicted on anything.
There was no evidence.
There was no evidence. The woman that claimed all this stuff was a woman that drove 3 hours to his place after the first assault. Mm-hmm. So this is confusing to me because Trevor Bauer, who's 31 years old, going to be 32 this year, is essentially losing his career now because he'll come back 34, 35 years old. What will he be at that point? We have no idea. And he was on the Dodgers, a team that could have won the World Series last year with them playing. And I know that's totally trivial compared to real life shit. In fact, if he really did these things, the problem is we don't know. And this man's losing 2 years of his career, and his legacy is tarnished forever. His anything that he's attached to is done forever. No one will ever take him serious about anything ever. Like the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing. Johnny Depp said it himself on his trial. He goes, no matter how innocent I might end up being at the end of this trial, my career is fucked. Maybe I can get back into acting, all these other things, but no one will ever look at me the same. Tyreek Hill, who was proven innocent in the court of law, people still tweeted him, child abuser, woman abuser. Because optics are optics. And Trevor Bauer forever is tarnished because of this, no matter if he's innocent or a real genuine sack of shit. And I don't know what he is. So I'm not going to sit here and incriminate this man when I don't know what he truly did or didn't do. So it's really sad to see if, in fact, this man is innocent to lose essentially his career. But if he did do it, then I'm so fucking glad it happened. And if we can prove it one day that he did, we're throwing a parade for this woman. We're throwing a parade for what the MLB just did because that is justice served. My problem is, from where I'm sitting right here in our studio, I can't prove it. And I think that right now, until you can prove it, unless I'm mistaken here, we live in a society that claims that you are innocent until proven guilty. I feel that he's being done wrong if he wasn't proven because, again, the MLB hasn't come out with any evidence. The court system hasn't come out with any evidence. So why is he being punished? Just to be made an example of? That's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right. And that's where I'll stand on it.
Yeah, this is one of the few grievances I have with the judicial system is the power that allegations carry, the weight that allegations, whether true or false, carry. Because all these are right now are allegations, and the man's career might be ruined because. And listen, I'm not talking light on the matter, the allegations of what they are, and the claims that are there. It's just, I mean, that's a hefty fine for something that's not been proven yet, and he's going to have to carry that whether he's proven guilty or whether he's proven guilty or not guilty.
Oh well,
right?
the case is already done and over with.
That's what I'm saying. So like,
he's innocent. Like,
but I mean, just the allegations. That's what I'm saying. The allegations are what caused this. Yeah. It's simply optics that have caused this. Nothing came out against Deshaun Watson. There's nothing been proven against Deshaun Watson either, and it's just the allegations. You know what I mean? So I feel that what I feel like is the judicial system really needs to come down on false accusers more because no one's going to do time for falsely accusing someone of this. And you're possibly ruining someone's career, and you're putting your hand in someone's pocket, that these individuals have worked their entire lives for. I don't think that's fair in my mind. I'm not defending him because he could have done something very much likely could have done something to especially a woman. Who knows if it was self-defense or if things were going on and she came back again. That's kind of a red flag there in the situation that she continued to come back. Granted, there's situations where women continue to go back to abusers and vice versa. Men stay with abusers. Obviously, Johnny Depp's situation was, he was being mentally and physically abused by a woman. He can continue to be with her. And there's strange things that go on in the lives of individuals, but I just don't like the fact that an allegation or multiple allegations can ruin someone's life, even if they're false. So there needs to be a crackdown on false allegations as well. So this situation, I don't know all the details, of everything. The case has been done. I don't support the idea that you ban someone for 2 years, especially someone of the caliber that is Trevor Bauer, for 2 whole seasons, possibly ruining his career moving forward, let alone his personal identity and his personal reputation for just a human being. So it sucks. I don't know. I'm not here supporting him. I'm not sure what he has or hasn't done in reality. But with the case being what it is, and not being nothing solidified evidence-wise, it's hard. It's hard to support that the MLB doing that to him, to be honest with you. But I get the optics of it. They don't want to be associated with the possibility that someone is doing that and is a part of their league. I get that as well. I don't think it's a real fair, balanced disciplinary action, honestly, on what they've done to him, as far as him literally not being a guilty person. I feel like that's just, but I do think that's just the time and age that we live in. People are wanting to avoid any kind of, canceling of any people and carrying any kind of identity along with that. So I don't really support that. I think that's kind of weak in my mind. I think you need to stand true with, the players that are great players in your league that are proven innocent. I think that's the way you should do it, regardless of whatever, feedback negatively that you get from fans and just writers and journalists in general. I think you got to stand with your guys as long as they're not proven guilty. I think that's the way it should be. But, it is what it is, man. That's the time and age we live in, where things are very hot button. Things are very hot. The topics are extremely hot, and they want to you're either in or you're out. With the click of a finger. So it's just I don't know, man. This is one of those situations where it's rough, similar to the Deshaun Watson thing. It's a lot of overwhelming evidence that seems that it's damning, but then again, the case gets thrown out because there's not enough damning evidence. So it's just either way, both these guys' personal personas and identities are tarnished for the rest of their careers and possible lives. So,
and just to throw this out there, it's not like they were dating or in a relationship for years, and
these were like hookups.
He'd been abusing her for years. No, this was two hookups that they had. Mm-hmm. With the first, her liking it rough, and her telling them to smack her and beat her up pretty much.
That was the first time, and then she came back for more. Right.
And then she came back for more, and then she goes
and just let everybody know, Eddie's not making any of this up or speaking from his own point of view. This is factual.
This was actually brought up in court, and this is what we know.
Which is why it was thrown out.
Exactly. And she came back, drove 3 hours, and asked to get beat up again while having rough sex, essentially. So you got to look at that evidence. Why she come back if, according to her, he abused her the first time? Why would you drive 3 extra hours and do the same thing over again if he, quote unquote, abused you the first time? So that's the first question you have. So,
was there any kind of settlement? Was she paid off by any? You don't know.
No.
I didn't know if there was or not.
They met. I can't remember where they met, but yeah, and now as it currently stands, he is currently suing her for defamation.
Wow.
So
as he should.
So for Major League to suspend him 2 years with him having a defamation lawsuit against a woman who essentially has accused him of an abuser, a woman beater, and all this stuff.
Is she the only one, or is there other women?
No, it's just the only one.
Yeah.
So I think MLB took this a little too extreme. I think they just wanted to make an example of somebody.
Right. Kind of a scapegoat.
And kind of like an scapegoat. And I texted you guys yesterday that this is not good for the MLB because he can come back and sue the Major League Baseball for essentially suspending him 2 years.
Defamation of character, all kinds of shit.
Why are you why are you suspending me for 2 years? What I didn't do no PEDs, I didn't do no drugs, I didn't test positive for anything.
They give first offenders on PED use 50 to 60 game suspensions.
80 games.
Yeah, 80 games. I'm sorry. Yeah, 80 game suspensions. That's half the season now, let alone 2 full seasons.
Right.
Second of all, to your point, Eddie, the Deshaun Watson situation. If this was the same thing where Trevor Bauer had like 6, 7, 8 offenders, let alone 22,
Right.
then we're sitting here going, guys, there's a lot of smoke. There's got to be some fire around this. There's got to be something.
And I can see why the MLB would have suspended him for 2 years. Then I would be like, well, I mean, I can't really say it's like, oh, why'd you suspend it? But when it's only one girl and now you're coming back and suing her, kind of like exactly like the Johnny Depp situation.
He wants this
for defamation.
Yeah,
like he's not doing this because he doesn't think he's innocent. No, he's doing it because he knows he's innocent, and
that's the actions of a man that feels righteous.
Yeah, you don't do a defamation lawsuit if you know you're going to lose.
Right.
Yeah, it makes no sense. You're losing money, time, and you've already lost your career. So yeah, exactly. So what? Yeah, it only makes you. Well, yeah, because if they dig into it a little bit more, then they can start having indictments come down further down.
Optic wise, you're already looking pretty bad, and then you go in there and do a defamation lawsuit, and then you lose.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, man.
It's a tough situation.
It's a touchy subject.
I think the MLB jumped the gun, and they fucking jumped it way too much. I think maybe this one season where obviously let all these things calm down, see what happens.
Yeah.
And then you can go on from there. But Trevor Bauer missed all of last season. Does that count towards his suspension? Or are we talking from this season
from
on?
Now, probably.
Because this will be his second season that he misses. So if you're adding 2 more seasons to this season, that you're talking about 4 years of him being away from baseball.
That's rough.
That's insane.
Yep.
So
and he's one of the best in his position. It's not like he's some nobody. Trevor Bauer's one of the best pitchers in the league. Man.
Yes, yes, he is. Yes, he is.
So,
yeah, it sucks.
And it's and just to add one more point, and we'll move on. I think that there's added incentive for the major leagues to do this because he's been not one of the most vocal player against the MLB, against Rob Manfred. He's called him out by name. So I think the MLB is like, oh, we get to take an opportunity to get a pound of flesh off this motherfucker. Let's do it. Yeah. So I think there's something to that as well. But again, like I said, if he did do this, then Trevor Bauer deserves all of this, and I hope he goes to prison because there should be nobody out here freely walking doing shit like that.
He can't go to prison anymore.
I know. I'm saying my hope would be that he would be in prison for a guy that would do something like that if, in fact, he did. Because I don't want people like that walking around on the streets, man, and maybe potentially hurting somebody else. That's it. I appreciate Eddie. Good Eddie Hour. We do appreciate that. We got one more order of business to get to, guys. What's it called? Hold this L. Each and every week we finish up each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports, whether they're friendly or not friendly L's in the world of sports. Whoever's holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, who's holding the L for you, and why is it taking 3 weeks for you to get an L out of this bad boy?
Man, I don't know, but I'm going to give it to Ferrari in Formula 1.
Hey.
Why am I going to give it to
Only
them?
because I didn't ask if it's F1 this motherfucker.
Exactly. Why am I going to give it to them? Obviously, this past weekend, the race was in Italy. Obviously, Ferrari, Italian brand, Italian owned. They were at a home Grand Prix pretty much. So they have arguably the strongest car in the garage this season. Obviously, Red Bull is putting up a fight, but I do think that Ferrari has the best car out there by a long shot. And last weekend was crucial if Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz wanted to get further ahead in the constructors and in the drivers' championship and keep that substantial lead. But obviously, everything went wrong for Ferrari. Race started. First turn, or turn one, Daniel Ricciardo hits Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz goes into the gravel, gets stuck, out of the race. So now Ferrari's down to one car. Red Bull has 2 cars up in the top 3. So then Sergio Perez passes Charles Leclerc. So now you have Red Bull 1-2, and then you got Ferrari. And obviously Charles Leclerc kept pushing, and he was on Sergio Perez's ass. He was hauling ass, and all that pressure got to him, and he made a mistake. He created the error that cost him at least a top 3 finish. So you went from having a 2-4 position to he fell down to 9th, finished 7th, so and only 1 car to finish the race. You can't have these kinds of races if you want to win championships. These moments are crucial, especially in Formula One, because one race can change everything. It is very, very mentally demanding. The sport's mentally demanding. That when you have situations like this, it can be very bad for you. So hopefully Ferrari can come up and show out in Miami this next week. So we'll see what happens there. But for what happened last weekend and for it was your time to shine, man. Ferrari, you're gonna have to do me a favor and
hold this L. Trevor Twidwell, who's holding the L for you
I
this
just want to
week?
give you guys an update. We traded from 158 in the 5th round with the Seahawks to up to 145.
Oh, yeah.
145th pick. The pick is in. I'm not sure who it is yet, but we did trade that 5th pick or that 5th round pick and a 7th round pick up with the Seattle Seahawks.
That's the beauty of having 4 7th-round picks, baby.
Yeah, to move up 13 spots. So. So the pick is in. I'm not sure what we got yet, but I want to give.
I got you.
I want to give a W real quick though to one Campbell Anders, a familiar name with local Chiefs fans. Obviously, we know him very well. One of the best fullbacks we ever had in this franchise. He was named in the Chiefs Ring of Honor Hall of Fame.
Nice.
I just want to give him his shout out. You know, a guy that was a part of this city for a while. Was on some of the greatest Chiefs teams ever. Was a fun personality, a fun guy to watch play football every Sunday. So I just wanted to give him his shout out. Mine's gonna be pretty simple. Mine's going to the Dallas Cowboys. As we all saw, the trading bonanza that was in the first round of the NFL draft, we saw 2 very talented wide receivers get traded in the first round. With the names of Hollywood Brown. Being traded, getting a first round pick out of him, and then AJ Brown the Titans getting a first round pick out of him, and then you got Amari Cooper being traded, months before the draft started, but only getting a 5th round pick for Amari Cooper when they could have waited till draft day because he was still very much under contract. They could have waited till draft day. You're telling me that they couldn't get the same draft capital for Hollywood Brown? Yeah, go ahead.
We picked Darian Kinnard, offensive tackle, Kentucky.
Okay. Offensive tackle, okay.
I knew we needed to go offensive tackle.
Yeah.
I have us taking a couple offensive line in this draft anyway, so yeah, I like that. I'm guessing he's probably like a swing tackle kind of guy that could be moved around, I'm sure. That's awesome. I like that. I'm glad we took an offensive line. We needed some more depth there. But yes, so I'm just getting back to my point. I mean, you get a first round pick for Hollywood Brown. You get a first round pick for what's the name from the Titans? AJ Brown. These 2 guys, you're getting first round picks. You're telling me you couldn't get a first round pick for Amari Cooper? You absolutely could if you waited till the draft. But here you are getting a 5th round pick for Amari Cooper, who's still one of the very much highly, we were fiending for him for the Chiefs to make a trade. We were pissed that they only gave up the Browns only gave up a 5th round pick to get him. And that's obviously straight thievery looking at what these other receivers are getting in the draft. And who knows what the Niners could have got for Debo if they really wanted to get rid of him. They were even offered a first round pick. So all these guys were getting first round draft capital offers. And meanwhile, the Browns, all they had to do was dish out a 5th round pick to get Amari Cooper. So for that, Dallas Cowboys, do me a solid favor and
hold this L. Kind of would like to give myself a W real quick, just a side note, because in my draft predictions, I had the Chiefs going offensive tackle with their 7th pick. And what do you know? With their 7th pick, the motherfuckers go OT. So I'm going to look into this Darian Kinnard. From what Arrowhead Live is saying, he's a nasty run blocker, and it's a great value pick in the 4th round. So that's exciting to see the Chiefs go and get that guy at that position. So man, that's really good to see, and I'm going to dig deeper into that. And it's kind of cool to like do this again because we haven't done this since 2019, where we were doing like a live reaction.
I almost got it. I had a 6th round of right tackle. I had a 6th round of right tackle going for us, but yeah, round off.
Yeah, this is pretty cool, man. So I actually want to.
No offensive tackle.
We always take an offensive
I think it's just
tackle
good because, like I said, Andrew Wiley right now is the starting right tackle. Lucas Niang still working his way back from a severe knee injury. Yep. I think it's good, man. I think that's a good pick. We'll obviously dig deeper into this as time goes on. But I want to give my W to a David Ajobu. Biggest reason why this guy was a surefire top 12, 15 pick out of Michigan this year. Just an unbelievable defensive specimen. blows his freaking Achilles at his pro day. They showed the video yesterday. It was just disheartening to see it. This guy falls, and people are thinking, man, is he going to get drafted? Is anybody going to take him, give him an opportunity in the first 3 or 4 rounds? And then at pick 45, the Ravens go and sign him, go and draft him rather. They're more than likely he's not going to play his rookie year, but to see a guy that was going to make millions to start his career off now get a chance to prove his worth. It sucks to see, but it's also great to see that he's still got a chance to get in the top 50, and I think he's going to be an absolute stud for the Ravens. The Ravens know how to get those linebackers. They know how to draft defense. I think David Njoku is going to be that, and I want to give him a W for that as well, man. But my L, man, look, I didn't want to go basketball, but I'm going to go basketball because there's a legacy. There's a couple legacies that have just been absolutely destroyed this week, and that is one Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. This week, they got swept by the Celtics, a team that I did pick the Celtics to win in 5, so it wasn't a shock that the Celtics won. But not only did Kevin Durant leave a team that was a dynasty, and it was going to continue to be a dynasty with him, even with his Achilles tear, but Kyrie Irving left LeBron James in the prime of his career. He left LeBron James when they were in the midst of a 3, soon-to-be 4 finals in a row appearances. Kyrie Irving left that to go to the Celtics to not win nothing, then went to the Nets to not win nothing, and now they're getting swept in the first round against, ironically, the Celtics. And for me, man, these guys both had a golden opportunity to build their legacies with their former employers and rack up championships, or at least finals appearances that are going to elevate their legacies as individual players. And they chose, no, we're going to do it a different way that historically doesn't work out. We're going to sit here and say that we don't need a head coach because we can be the head coach and we can be the GM. Literal words of these two. And now they're out here sending out cryptic tweets about, man, I don't take shots at the peasants. I don't take shots at the big guys. And Kevin Durant's out here quote tweeting people with literally 29 followers that are coming at him. It's just an utter and disastrous mess, man. And it's about as bad as Derek Carr's last 2 hairdos. So I just want to say, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, y'all taking some L's on the court. Y'all also going to take some L's here at the Spoken Podcast. Do me a solid, and hold this L. I hope you guys had a blast today. I know I had a blast today. If you'll excuse us, we need to get to breaking down some more Chiefs draft picks because our guy Brett Veach is out here tapping that ass in the draft. We're so stoked about this one. I hope you guys had a great time. For the great Arrowhead Tom that's with us today from the Kingdom Says podcast, for Trevor Twidwell, Eddie Ortiz, and the great Clay Windler that puts this bad boy together. Episode 165 is the done, finished, finito. I'm Lance Twidwell, and until we're back here for episode 166 to really relish and reflect on what the Chiefs did as a whole in this draft and get ready for the next season, man, when Patrick Mahomes takes over for episode 5 of his career as the starting quarterback for episode 166. And for episode 165 today, we out of this bitch.